This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
Here we go. Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Ring the Bell Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. Wow, I am really loud. Good God. Welcome back, everybody, to the Break the Bell Podcast. It has been 2 weeks and 1 day. It has been.
It has.
It's just been. We'll just say it's been.
Yes. Hello, beautiful bell breakers. It has been a while.
It's just been.
Yeah, it's just been. That's
yeah,
all we
it
can
has
say.
been a while, but we didn't lose people. We got people in the comments already. Sharon is
Yeah.
here.
Maybe we should
Shannon?
be late more often.
Shannon. Oh, we're supposed to call her Shannon.
Yes. It's been a while.
It has been Shannon.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
That's true, Shannon.
Grumpy Gnome is here, and Derek is here and says we're only 192 hours late. Glad to know you're counting, Derek. That's a lot more math than I can do this late on a Tuesday.
I
don't
it's
know.
Tuesday?
It's Tuesday because we skipped Monday.
Yes,
remember?
that's right. Yes. Okay.
Because
it felt like a Monday.
I had like 3 weddings in 2 weekends, so I was just like last week I was like and we had the concert. We had the
Dropkick Murphys.
Celtic punk
Yeah.
testosterone fest.
Yes. That was
I
fun.
did find out I've been wondering for a while where all the testosterone of the
Yes.
world, of the men of the world went. It turns out it's at a Dropkick Murphys concert
Yes.
because there was so much of it.
Yes.
But so we had the concert. I had a bunch of weddings.
My
and
daughter's birthday.
last week I was like, it's just a crazy week. We're gonna skip.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, after doing 2 back-to-back weddings, I was like, my brain can't handle it. Can we go Tuesday? And you're like, sure, I guess. And then you called me a bitch, and then life went
but
on.
that's normal.
But we are here. Let's see. Grumpy Gnome says he just happened to be on YouTube and this popped up. Well,
That's awesome.
That's great timing. See, that's why
Yes.
we were on Tuesday, just to catch Grumpy Gnome
Exactly.
on YouTube. And then Shannon says, such an autist. I'm not sure who she's referring to, but that's all right. We're all autists here to some degree.
Yes.
We
On some
gotta
spectrum, right?
we gotta be autists because we don't support these wars that
That's
we're
right.
about to find ourselves in. So how have you been, Bill?
I've been good. Been busy, but it's all
but
good
good.
stuff.
Well, I just spent 20 minutes talking about my last couple weeks, and you're like, I've been good, but we've been doing things.
Yeah.
That's it. So, did you hear that World War III is finally about to kick
Yeah.
off?
I think everybody's hashtagging World War III right now.
I mean, how many times a year does World War III get hashtagged, though?
Yeah.
Do you think this is, before we get into it, I guess I always got to preface you, like a prefacing question for you before we discuss. Do you think this is the big one?
No.
No, you still don't.
No,
You still
no,
not
no.
buying it.
Yeah.
I mean, Israel. I mean, if anybody's going to drag us, this is going to get us kicked off YouTube. If anybody's going to drag us into World War III, it's going to be fucking Israel. It's going
Right.
to be.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, because you can't say anything. You can't oppose what
Right.
they're doing. They could literally wipe an entire civilization off the map, but we can't say that's wrong because
Right.
that would be anti-Semitic, or that would be going against their right to exist as the
Yeah.
nation of Israel or Jewish people. So, based on how much you can't oppose what they are doing,
Right.
I would say if any of the wars that kick off are going to start World War III, it's going to be something to do
Well,
with Israel.
And of course, it would be Joe Biden.
Oh, obviously,
right,
Joe,
I mean,
Joe Ballsack Chin
yeah.
Biden. Have you seen his chin recently?
You showed it me
Jesus
a picture, and I'm like,
Christ.
what the hell did he do?
What is
he
going on
for
with
like
I'm gonna have to find that
a
chin.
Barney Rubble thing going on?
I don't know. Like every time I see him, his face gets
It's
worse.
different. Like
It's
he's got like higher cheekbones and like
well, it's like
a
all puffed up. Like his cheeks were puffed up in
Yeah.
that the warmonger video that you sent me this week, and he has like a weird like mouth lisp thing. I think he's had some really bad recent work
a
done.
little bit,
Like really bad recent work, not like the kind that makes people look better, but
right.
like a Michael Jackson type doctor work done.
A Meg Ryan type.
So maybe during the intro video, I'll find the ballsack chin. But man, I've never seen that.
I know it was so like pronounced.
Like maybe
his
cheek injections fell down to his chin, like they let loose.
I think
don't know.
Yeah, he's old, so things sag.
I didn't know chins did that though. I knew like down here the double chin did that.
Maybe he had it done, and so that just like pushed it up.
He got a chin lift, like a neck lift.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's like, well, I kind of like it. It makes me look a little bit more.
How does Derek Ambrose says Balchinian? Yes. How does it make you feel knowing that the person, the leader of us that could potentially be bringing us into World War III is Joe Ballsack Chin Biden?
I mean, it had to be. I mean, to be honest, it really had to be.
But how does that make you feel knowing that he's going to lead us into World War III?
It scares the shit out of me.
He's not a Roosevelt type.
No,
he's not even a George Bush type, and that's bad.
Yeah, right.
He's a Joe fucking Biden.
He's not even a Jimmy Carter type,
right?
That says a lot.
I mean, it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I'm just like, just watch it burn.
Yeah,
because that's all it's going to do,
and that's all you can do.
Yeah. So this week in the news, not only do we have the Israel-Palestine conflict, we also have Ukraine is still a thing, apparently. Joe Biden thinks that they need a lot, like a fuck ton of money.
Right, still.
And then obviously there's China and Taiwan going on, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because nobody's saying China and Taiwan, though. Not even in, like there's this $100 billion spending warmonger package Biden's proposing, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna give a few billions to Israel, and then a fuck ton of billions to Ukraine, and then it's like that doesn't add up to 100 billion. And some people are like, well, he's also talking on the sides about sending money to Taiwan and the border of Mexico,
right? Yeah,
and so, but it's interesting because if I Google Taiwan, like Google News in Taiwan has only 3 pages that you can read.
Huh.
And then even DuckDuckGo, which is supposed to be like the uncensored version of Google, 1 page of news on Taiwan. Is there really that little going on in Taiwan right now? Or did somebody just go like scrub all the news? It makes me wonder what the fuck they're hiding about Taiwan while we're looking at Israel.
Oh, of course.
Kind of forgetting about the billions of dollars that we're still sending Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell's going on?
And I read today in a little excerpt that popped up is that apparently we got kicked out of another African country.
Which one?
I think it was Uganda.
What did we do?
Well, we had our CIA there. I guess we were trying to get a coup going on, and apparently it didn't fly. And
was it the actual CIA or was it the NED?
Like, well, they said CIA, so maybe the NED is too busy, someplace
in Ukraine
else.
Or I don't know. Maybe is the NED and does Israel allow? I can't imagine Israel allows the NED there.
I can't imagine. They wouldn't need them.
No, they got their own freaking their own shit.
They probably run the NED.
So that's what we're going to kind of just discuss what's going on throughout this last couple weeks that we've kind of had off. We did a show. I forgot to post it on the podcast platform.
I was wondering. I was looking. I was like,
you listen to those? I didn't even know you listened. No, I forgot to post the audio version of it until like today. I was like, oh yeah, that thing. Because remember, I was like, I don't feel like doing it tonight, and then I apparently didn't feel like doing it for 2 weeks. So that will be released. We talked about like the initial Hamas attack on Israel and
Yes.
Israel pushing back on Hamas and all the initial emotions around it.
Right.
So this is kind of continuing that, but also discussing like the further implications of this. So, and the possibilities of World War III. What do you think? What do you think the percent chance is that it will World War III will kick off in 2023 or 2024? I guess within the next 6 months.
I'll say 20%.
20. That's all.
That's it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking more like maybe 2026, 2027, something like that.
You're just like, it's got to be closer to 2030. We can't because of 2030 agenda shit. So we can't rush into it too fast, because if it ends too early, then the 2030 thing just won't stick.
Right now they're just trying to like tease you, be like, hey,
It's true.
Look over here.
Derek says ADHD strikes again with the missed upload. You're not wrong. I'm finding out more and more lately the level of ADHD I have, especially like, it's like I'll be doing a project at work. Like, I'm like, I got to get this done now. And somebody will mention something and I'll be like, I got to get this done now too.
Yeah.
And then then the phone will ring and I'll pick up the phone and it's like, okay, I got to get this done. And then I don't do most of it. So, Grumpy Gnome says he's calling August 2024 will kick off World War III. So
let's start a poll.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to start a poll online for the month and year.
Yes.
So we will start. I mean, you guys can start your comments now and let us know what you think. I don't know, because it's looking like they're pushing it so hard right now.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I could see it kicking off earlier.
Yeah.
I put the odds higher than 20%, like you say, but I also could see this as being just a lot of fluff talk, like the whole Russia-Ukraine. That was the last time we talked about World War III, was when Russia-Ukraine kicked off, and we had a map and all that fun.
It seems like we do like an annual thermonuclear war show.
True.
Yeah.
It's our annual World War III watch. Like, how close are we this time? I don't see it.
Are we closer on the doomsday clock?
Probably. We're so close to winter right now that it'd be just a bad timing to kick it off.
Nobody wants to go to war.
I don't know
winter.
because when is like Israel's not. It's more closer to like the equator, so they don't have harsh winters, do they?
No.
But then you're talking like Russia and China and shit, and they got harsh winters.
That's true.
So, but then again, if you push it further till next year, we got elections coming up. Is it going to happen before elections?
I think
so he can be a war president, or will it come after elections?
I mean, I could see him wanting to be a war. I mean, unless he really thinks he's going to get reelected. And maybe that's the thing. It's like, well, we're going to go to war, and if you want to win, I guess you'll vote for me.
That's true. We're going to keep talking. We're way past our pre-show time. Let's keep this thing going. But first, let's get right into this intro. Check us out all over social media, especially once we drop that poll, because I mean, we got bragging rights.
Absolutely.
Bragging rights for the ultimate demise of the world as we know it, for you calling it. So,
maybe we can make a t-shirt that World War III champion.
Yes. We'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you saying?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, baby.
What did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I don't know what the hell is going on. I need a new computer. So, World War III watch. That's.
Yes.
I mean, we're there. Well, we're not there, but
No,
we're heading there.
Yeah, we're on the watch.
We're on the watch list. We're high watch. I think we're
Yeah.
like tier 3 watch
Tier 3,
level.
okay.
That's what I think. I mean, we've had the Eastern Europe front for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Got the Middle East front now, which is hot zone,
It's
like
hot zone.
active hot zone. And pretty soon we'll have the Asian front.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and there is suspicions that something's going to kick off in South America.
really, you
Yes.
don't hear much about South America.
Yeah.
Like internally, or
No. I guess that Venezuela has some ins with Iran, and
everybody has ins with Iran.
yeah, well, but they are actually like doing military drills together and stuff, and so America, I guess, is concerned that there might be some issues with South America.
Did they ever stop and think that maybe they're doing that in this hemisphere because we do it all the time in that hemisphere? And they're like,
nobody thinks about that.
let's see how you guys like it.
Yeah.
It's like, what would happen if? Could you imagine if there was drills in I don't know, Mexico?
Yeah.
Like, what would you? What
Well-
do they do over there when we're drilling all the time, all
Right.
the fucking time, everywhere?
Yeah, one of my favorite lines from his speech was, "Well, the UN has kept peace in Europe for 75 years." I'm like, has it though?
Where?
Exactly.
Where has there been peace for 75 years?
Yeah. Or not
But-
the UN, NATO. NATO has
Oh,
kept peace
in
for
Europe,
75
maybe
years.
in Europe, I
Yeah,
guess.
maybe like Europe proper.
Like,
but not
yeah, like the
Eastern
EU.
Europe.
Yeah, look, how much peace has been in Eastern Europe since World War II ended?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much been in a constant. Well, there was that brief period after the fall of the USSR
Yeah.
until maybe the year 2000,
Right.
when
I'll
on
give you that.
Y2K, when Putin was like, you know what, I'm taking over this shit, and everybody's like, this ain't good. This ain't good at all. So, do you think it's mere coincidence that all these places are just kind of erupting at the same time, though?
No,
Like,
I
is
don't.
it that so unrestful in the world right now?
I think it's been building for a while.
But for them all to just like violently erupt,
Yeah.
this year, I guess, or in the last year and a half,
Yeah. Well, I just think people got restless after COVID and
they just wanted to start a war.
Yeah,
They've been
they're
stuck
like, you know
inside.
it's like when we came out of the concert. I'm like, have you
Right.
ever felt like wanting to just punch somebody right now?
It's like, you get cooped up in your house for a good year and a
Yeah.
half. I mean, who wouldn't want to start a fucking
Right.
war? I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to start a war,
Right.
So
Yes.
I can't imagine how like the Russians and Ukrainians feel, or the Palestinians. I mean, were the Palestinians shut in their house? I don't know how that
Probably
works. I don't know. So, I guess starting out, let's look at the Israel front, because it's the big one right
It's
now.
the big one.
Yeah, it's the what do they call it? The current thing.
Yes.
Remember we talked about
Yes.
the current
And it's
thing?
been so fun watching like celebrities try to tightrope that
It
woke
is
line.
so weird.
It is. It's like,
It
well,
is so freaking
Gaza deserves
weird.
or the Palestinians deserve but Israel deserves
But all our bosses are Jewish, so what do we
Yeah,
do?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't. It is just freaking weird watching the left just completely
Yeah.
implode on itself.
Yeah.
But then there's like the middle left that's like fucking war,
Yeah. Right.
and then the right is like, oh, Israel's our friend. We must support them because of Jesus. You know,
right.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. So it is just comical. Like, this is the most comical
It has
because
been.
people just don't know
Yeah. Which
how
way
to
go.
respond, because you have like middle left like talking shit about the far left for being anti-Semitic, and
Yeah.
then you have like Black Lives Matter people coming out in support of Donald Trump because it's just weird right now. It's so hilarious.
I watched a reporter ask KJP, like, so with all the pro-Palestinian protest in colleges, do you consider that anti-Semitic? And she's like, well, we don't approve of it, but free speech. So we're not going to stop them. And so, but they really should be careful with what they do.
Yeah, it's like Putin saying, "I wish you good health."
Yeah, exactly.
Derek says, "Do we have a Speaker of the House yet?" Bill,
not yet. There's still
You were watching Fox News all day yesterday.
I know,
so
the place I was working at, and
No,
I was
sure.
talking to this guy
At your house.
No, I'm on a job site. And I was talking to this guy, very interesting guy, and it turns out he's a Q guy. I didn't know it. I didn't know it until he started mentioning some buzzwords that I was like, wait a minute.
That sounds fun.
I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, he's a Q guy. But yes, yeah. So yes, Fox News. No speaker. We're on our 4th nominee now.
What happened to what was it?
Yeah, Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan.
Nobody,
he was like the front runner.
Apparently not.
I haven't
enough.
paid. I've literally not paid any attention to that shit.
I've tried not to. Yeah, Scalise, they didn't like him. I think he has health issues, so he got denied. Jordan came in. He tried like 3 or 4 times, and they just couldn't do it.
So
Derek,
View.
What's that? It's the same thing, Shannon. The View, Fox News. I consider it the same.
Yes, it's all the same.
They need to put Whoopi on Fox.
Oh my god. So stop playing with your freaking microphone.
Sorry.
Derek said, "Do we have a Speaker of the House? Can't formally declare war without a Speaker."
That's the problem.
Newsflash for you, Derek. We don't need to formally declare war. Right. We haven't. We don't. We didn't. That's
when was the last time we declared formal war anymore?
World War II?
Yeah.
I am not joking. That is the last time.
Yeah, I know.
And we have been at like perpetual war since World War II.
Yeah.
But we have there are conflicts. And what did they call Vietnam?
No, police action.
Police action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So this is just going to be the Iranian. This is just going to be the World War police action. That's what it's going to be. Shannon says 1948. So yeah, World War II. Grumpy Gnome says Massey said he voted for Jim Jordan again. I don't know.
He just doesn't have the support. Yeah.
What's his stance on Ukraine and Israel?
I don't think he's supportive, but I think he's wishy-washy, kind of like the last guy.
Oh,
and
so the last guy shot himself in the foot.
He did
by overpromising and under.
Yeah. Well, and then that guy comes out. I can't remember his name. Who was the last speaker?
I don't know. It's been so long ago.
Right?
2
weeks. Then he comes out and he's like, well, not to scare anybody, but there's probably sleeper cells in the United States getting ready to attack.
I forgot to look up this. I've heard several people saying,
yes.
Oh, did you hear that there's possibly Hamas sleeper cells in the United States? I'm like, we're there again. It's come back full circle. That now it's not. Once again, it's no longer the white sleeper cells; it's the brown sleeper cells again.
Yeah,
like it's come like we're back in 2002, 2001, all over again. All of a sudden, people hate the brown people all over again, and they're going to leave us white people alone for a little while,
or a little bit.
Or are they going to lump us in with them and say that the domestic white bearded terrorists are joining forces with the brown bearded
Well, they
terrorists?
were trying to, because before this whole Israel thing, they were trying to say how Trump supporters were being watched by the FBI. They were being considered like extremists.
Yeah, but were they joining forces with?
No, but we probably are now.
Obviously, I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. It's like white nationalists join forces with terrorists, with ISIS. I don't know.
Yeah. Common goal.
It's
maybe
white nationalists. Yeah. I don't know. I want to put it past.
No, but we have come full circle at this point.
It is true.
Yeah.
Like sitting down with some ultra Republican people that I am connected with.
Mm-hmm.
It just radiates a post 9/11 all over again. Like as soon as the Israel, well, did you hear that one Muslim representative that was in support of these pro-terrorist protests?
Yeah.
They're actually calling a pro-terrorist protest. Like these people are out in support of the terrorists, not the potentially millions of civilians that are going to die in this that but they're in support of terrorism.
Because there's no middle ground, right?
No, there's not. You're either a terrorist or you're not,
or you're white.
which is also a terrorist.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. The whole thing is just a clusterfuck. It's
It is.
crazy. So, this whole thing is going on. What was it, like 1,700 Israelis that were killed during the initial?
Yeah, I had
Was the
heard like
final
13,
tally.
1400.
Yeah, so
But
between
there's
13
still
and 1,700.
a lot missing.
Yeah, that from the initial
Yeah.
Gaza to Israel strike, the
Right.
Hamas strike on Israel.
Yeah.
Over 5,000 Palestinians have been killed,
Right. Yes.
and Israel's not stopping.
Yeah, and they've come out and said they will not allow any oil or most supplies to get through. Now,
Yeah,
Biden says he's trying to talk them into letting them deliver stuff, but
yeah, I mean, they're like, we're not stopping till all of Hamas is gone.
yeah,
At what cost, though?
right,
Because that sounds a lot like George Bush and the war on terror.
right,
And what was the cost of the
Yeah.
war on terror?
millions.
That was, yeah, not just Al Qaeda,
Right.
not just Saddam Hussein, but the millions of like people displaced,
Yeah.
killed,
Right.
all the above.
Yeah.
So it's just like such loose definitions. And
Yeah.
then you have some sides, like France is interesting right now, because remember France was like, we need to like not go into war with Ukraine.
Right.
And Russia.
Yeah, they were
Like,
kind of more cautious
we,
ones.
like, you guys need to chill the fuck out. And I'm like, what is it? This guy is the voice. This guy, Macron, is the voice of reason in
right.
this.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, he's like, nah, we got to fuck up Gaza. I fully support Israel's right to just decimate Gaza.
Well, and have you seen Trudeau in Canada?
No.
The anti-gun guy? He's all like, wipe them out.
It's like, y'all need guns. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
right. I got a bunch. I'll send you.
Right. I'll sell them to you. So apparently, though, the UN is calling for a ceasefire. The UN, like the head of the UN.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people are coming out and just pissed at this guy. It's like, how dare you? How dare you call it? Like, do you not support Israel's right to exist? Like, he's calling for a humanitarian ceasefire.
Oh, absolutely. Right, right.
And they're like, well, obviously you're anti-Semitic or some shit like that. So this says
He's
Israel
probably Jewish.
Israel has vowed to destroy Hamas, rejecting UN calls for a Gaza ceasefire. So I want to get into this one a little bit and just show you kind of where things are at on a global stage here, because nothing's more global than the freaking UN, I guess.
Right.
So this is from Las Vegas Review Journal. It says Israel vowed again to destroy Hamas, rejecting calls from the UN chief, the Palestinians, and many countries at high-level UN meetings on Tuesday for a ceasefire, and declaring that the war in Gaza is not only its war.
Sorry, I thought it was silent.
So Israel vowed again to destroy Hamas, declaring the war in Gaza is not only Israel's war, but the war of the free world.
Wow.
There it is again. Another
Yes.
war of the free world.
Yes, it's the mother of all wars.
Didn't Ukraine kind of say that
That's what I thought.
when
Yes.
Zelensky came here? It's like,
Yes.
this isn't just my war. This is your war too.
Yes,
This is all.
yeah.
This is all our
If
war.
you want to protect the free world,
Shannon says those with sons get a diagnosis so they have a better chance of not being drafted. You didn't raise, live, and keep your kids safe to just hand them over to the war industrial complex. I don't need a diagnosis to keep my kids from getting drafted. I have bullets.
yeah, right.
They're just not going to.
Yeah.
My son's 13, so
Right.
if they draft him, we're in a really bad spot.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll have
Really,
a problem if they
really
draft.
bad spot. Says Israel Foreign Minister Eli Cohen also dismissed calls for proportionality. So he's like, fuck, like I know they only killed, or not only, but killed 1,700 of us, and we've killed 5,000, and you're calling for this proportionality thing. He's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
He's like, we're going to kill them all. He says, in the country's response to Hamas surprise attack on Israel on October 7th, that killed 1,400 people. There you go. Choking. Jesus. Has since led to claims from Hamas that more than 5,700 Palestinians have been killed in response. Tell me, what is proportionate response for killing of babies, for rape of women, and burning them, for beheading a child? Cohen said. How can you agree to a ceasefire with someone who swore to kill and destroy your own existence? He told the UN Security Council that the proportionate response to the massacre on October 7th is total destruction to the last of Hamas. The new Nazis, he stressed. It's not only Israel's right to destroy Hamas, it's our duty. These are big words.
They are. But
what do you think of him calling them the new Nazis?
I think, obviously he's trying to get people's responses.
Well, obviously.
If you want to get people like riled up, you call someone a Nazi, and everybody's like, "Oh, fuck him," right?
Yeah.
But how many of those 5,700 that they killed were affiliated with Hamas?
Well, exactly that.
Right?
It's like how many?
Maybe like 10%.
Right.
Maybe that. Maybe
it's like how many innocent people have to be collateral damage in your quest to destroy all of Hamas.
Yes,
because it's your duty and your right.
And just like Iran, doesn't think that Israelites are like real people or whatever. Israel doesn't think that Palestinians are real people, and that's why they don't care about the collateral damage.
But that's different because it's Israel, and it's their right to exist.
Yes,
so it's different in that aspect. Cohen called the October 7th attacks a wake-up call for the entire free world against extremism. He urged the civilized world to stand united behind Israel to defeat Hamas. Sounds very George Bush-esque there.
It does.
If you're not with us, you're against us.
Mm-hmm.
He also warned that today is Israel, and tomorrow Hamas and the attackers will be at everybody's doorsteps, starting with the West.
It's a nice little fear mongering there.
Yeah, a little bit of fear porn going on from this guy.
If we don't take care of them now, they're going to be knocking on your door, borrowing sugar.
Cohen also accused Qatar of financing Hamas and said the fate of more than 200 hostages taken from it.
I'm sorry, but Qatar has been brokering hostage releases, right? They've released several hostages because Qatar has been there talking to the
Where's
Hamas.
Qatar?
It's just, I believe it's just south of Egypt. Like kind of like the southeast corner of Egypt.
So now we're dragging Iran into this and also Qatar into this, so we can drag them all into this.
Absolutely.
Because he goes on to say that the fate of more than 200 hostages taken from Israel is in the hands of Qatar. So basically, like Qatar's kind of playing a role in this.
Right, yeah.
Like trying to benefit from this.
Yeah.
So yes, they are.
Right. And Qatar didn't have to do that. Qatar could have just stayed out of it.
No, but if they're making money out of it, then
and I'm sure they're getting paid big time.
Good on them, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
But and same with Egypt. I believe Egypt tried to give them a warning. Be like, hey guys, something big's coming.
Yeah, they did. We talked about that, and they're like, not really.
You're Egypt. You don't know.
Yeah, what do you know? Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki demanded an end to the Israeli attacks. We are here today to stop the killing. The ongoing massacres being deliberately and systematically and savagely perpetrated by Israel, the occupying power, against the Palestinian civilian people. Over 2 million Palestinians are on a survival mission every day, every night. Under international law, he said, it's our collective human duty to stop them. Al-Maliki warned that more attacks and killings and weapons and alliances won't make Israel safer. Only peace will. For those actively engaged to avoid an even greater humanitarian catastrophe and regional spillover, it must be clear that this can only be achieved by putting an immediate end to the Israeli war launched against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Stop the bloodshed. So, you got Israel may have some justification for doing some damage in Gaza, or against Hamas at least.
Yes.
And then you have the Palestinian people who aren't Hamas, as you were saying, that are getting caught in the crossfire of this.
Yes.
And at what point should Israel just be like, okay, we proved our point.
Yeah.
Let's go about our business. Israel doesn't do that though. Like every time a few rockets, even a few rockets fire into Israel, they're just like, kill them all.
Yeah. And they're even demanding that the Secretary General of the UN resign.
Oh yeah.
So,
Because he said he called for like
yeah,
a ceasefire and stuff.
And they're like, dude, you don't know. You need to just
Hey,
shut
you
up
need to
and
step
go
down,
back to
bro.
Portugal.
Yeah. It says UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres opened the monthly meeting on the decades-old Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has turned into a major event with ministers from the war's key parties and dozens of other countries flying to New York, warning that the situation in the Middle East is growing more dire by the hour. The UN chief said the risk of the Gaza war spreading through the region is increasing as societies splinter and tensions threaten to boil over. He called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to deliver desperately needed food, water, medicine, and fuel. He also appealed to all to pull back from the brink before the violence claims even more lives and spreads even further. He stressed that the rules of war must be obeyed. Now, that's the part that Israel didn't like, because he's saying, he's pretty much calling both sides out for war crimes.
And good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he might disappear soon.
Yeah, right.
But he's calling them both out. He said the grievances of the Palestinian people cannot justify the horrifying and unprecedented October 7th acts of terror. It says, but Gutierrez also stressed that those appalling attacks cannot justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. He expressed deep concerns at the clear violation of international humanitarian law, calling Israel's constant bombardment of Gaza and the level of destruction and civilian casualties alarming. That's all it is. Oh, it's a bit alarming.
That's putting it mildly.
He said protecting civilians is paramount in any armed conflict. So, your thoughts on this, on what's happening?
I mean, he's trying to be a voice of reason. I mean, that's what the UN is supposed to do, right?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, he's of course, Israel can call anybody a Nazi and everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon.
Sure.
Right? Now, Gutierrez out of Portugal is a Nazi, right?
Yeah,
he needs to step down because he's sympathetic to the Palestinian cause,
yes.
right?
So Israel has vowed to destroy all of Hamas, and like I said, at what cost?
Right.
What lengths do they go to?
I mean, obviously, they have no qualms about taking out anybody in Gaza. I think you even sent me something where they're saying, hey, anybody left in Gaza is considered a terrorist.
Was this one right here. Says Israel's considering civilians terrorist accomplices if they stay in northern Gaza. So what they're trying to do here, they're pretty much force evacuating them to southern Gaza, which is deeper into like the desert,
right?
Into the desolate regions. Yeah. On top of that, they cut off water supply, fuel supply,
medical supply,
food supply, all the above.
Yeah. That and how what's the likelihood that Hamas is going to let those civilians leave?
Well, that's another thing. It's like, is Egypt going to let them cross into Egypt?
All
Probably not.
Fuck that.
Is Hamas even going to let their own Palestinians leave and just kind of give up the land? Probably not. If they're truly terrorists, like the media is portraying them out as, they're going to probably use them as human shields, which is what the media is telling us they're doing. On top of that, like I said, cut off water supply. I saw a post from back in like June or July that was talking about how there's such a lack of good water already in Gaza. This was like pre-war.
Yeah.
Talking about how much disease and stuff is in the
Probably
water.
Intentional.
And they have to like pretty much import their like good, clean drinking water and food and shit like that. Well, then Israel's like, we're just going to cut that off.
Yeah.
Because we vowed to destroy Hamas.
Yeah.
Now, there are, what number? 2.3 million people, Palestinians in Gaza. 2.3 million. Cut off the water, food, the fuel, which is, as of the 15th, I read that hospitals had 2 days of fuel left for their generators to electrify their hospitals.
Right.
What happens when all that gets shut off?
Yeah.
The Hamas people just like get a little butthurt?
Right.
Or 2.3 million people just start to fucking die.
Yeah, right.
At what point do we call, if that happens, I'm not saying it has happened, But if that happens and Israel's like, no, fuck that, we're gonna keep our water. We're not gonna allow this. We're not gonna allow humanitarian aid into there. 2.3 million people just start to die.
Yeah.
At what point do we call the Israelis genocidal maniacs?
Yeah.
Like at what point? Because
You'll
I
never
mean,
hear
how-
it. You'll
How
never
many
hear
times did they throw the word genocide at Putin?
it. Oh yeah.
Like, oh, this whole city was destroyed. This is genocide. They just
Yeah.
want to wipe our people out. This is genocide. Well, that should be considered genocide. That's good. But cutting off life-sustaining elements
Yeah.
like food and water and fuel and medical supplies, when they start to die, is that genocide, or
Mhm.
is it not because of Israel's right to exist?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
let's say 500,000 Palestinians die. Is that genocide?
I mean, it's close.
I would say that is
It's
a quarter of the Palestinians in the
Yeah.
region.
right.
And it's far more than Putin took out in that town that they said was genocide.
Absolutely.
Now, if 500,000 people die and we come out and say Israel is guilty of genocide, do we get kicked off YouTube for that?
Oh, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
we
would
will.
I would say that if 100,000 Palestinians die, that's well on the way to genocide.
I would agree to that. And I think that allowing this by the U.S. not stepping in and doing anything, which Biden's supposedly trying to,
Right.
by nobody, like some of the allies not stepping up, being like, you can't fucking do that, we would all be guilty of the same genocide.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
Not me personally. I'm not guilty of it. But
Well, not yet.
so this one here talks about the cutoff of the food and water, because this is from PBS, which is it's weird. Like, we're living in weird times because like PBS, what just happened? I don't even know what just happened here. PBS just is like kind of coming out against like the Biden narrative, because Biden's saying he wants humanitarian
Right,
aid let
yeah.
in, but he's also beating the war drums like crazy.
Right. He's like, I talked to Bibi about getting supplies in there for people and making sure Hamas doesn't steal them.
Where did my article go?
And that's going to be the next excuse you see. Well,
Right.
we tried to send supplies, but Hamas keeps stealing everything.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Probably Ukraine keeps killing everything.
Yeah.
Here we go. Thousands at risk of dying in Gaza hospitals cut off by Israel from fuel, water, and supplies. What the hell is going on? I don't know what's going on here. Let me pull this one up. It's been a long week trying to get my shit together. Says medics in Gaza warned Sunday that thousands could die as hospitals packed with wounded people ran desperately low on fuel and basic supplies. Palestinians in the besieged coastal enclave struggle to find food. Just didn't pull up at all. Struggle to find food, water, and safety ahead of an expected Israeli ground offensive in the war sparked by Hamas's deadly attack. Israeli forces, supported by a growing deployment of U.S. warships in the region, positioned themselves along the Gaza border and drilled for what Israel said would be a broad campaign to dismantle the militant group. A week of blistering airstrikes have demolished the entire neighborhoods, but failed to stem militant rocket fire into Israel. Doing a great job.
Yeah.
The Gaza Health Ministry said 2,670 Palestinians have been killed. So this was back on the 15th.
Okay.
Now that number's up to like
Right, doubled.
5,700. Yeah. 9,600 wounded since the fighting erupted, and more than in the 2014 Gaza war, which lasted over 6 weeks. So this was the 15th, which was 9 days ago. So
Yeah.
5 days probably into the war. So in 5 days, more Palestinians have died than the 6-week 2014 Gaza
Yeah.
war. So how many do you think are going to die in 6 weeks' time?
Oh, yeah.
That makes this the deadliest of the 5 Gaza wars for both sides. More than 1,400 Israelis were killed, the vast majority of them civilians, in the Hamas October 7th assault. An estimated 150 others, including children, were captured by Hamas and taken to Gaza. It's also the deadliest war for Israel since 1973's conflict with Egypt and Syria. Now, I heard somebody say, I can't remember where, but it was some news personality actually utter the phrase, the most Jewish people killed since the Holocaust.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying he's wrong,
Yeah, but it's interesting.
but that comparison,
yeah,
the official claim of
it's
6
million
million
to 1,400.
to 1,400.
Yeah.
This is the biggest threat to humanity since the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's like, all right,
Yeah.
that's how you know they're tugging at your emotions. It's like when they compare J6 to 9/11, or it was worse, 10 times worse than 9/11.
Yeah. Or this is Israel's 9/11.
This is Israel's 9/11. Now this is Israel's Holocaust.
Yeah.
All over again.
Right,
This is
right.
the new.
It's
This
bringing back PTSD.
Yes. The U.S. State Department said Secretary of State Antony Blinken would return to Israel on Monday after completing a frantic 6-country tour through Arab nations aimed at preventing the fighting from igniting a broader regional conflict.
And do you think that did any good?
No. Fighting along Israel's border with Lebanon, which flared since the start of the latest Gaza war, intensified Sunday with Hezbollah militants firing rockets and anti-tank missiles, and Israel responding with airstrikes and shelling. Why is it always that Israel's responding at this point? At this point, they're both responding.
Yeah.
The Israel military also reported shooting at one of its border posts. The fighting killed at least one person on the Israeli side, which is the most since 2 people were killed yesterday. So we got to throw that out there. And the most since the Holocaust, probably. The fighting killed at least one person on the Israeli side and wounded several on both sides of the border. A spokeswoman for Hezbollah said the increased fighting represents a warning and does not mean Hezbollah has decided to enter the war.
No, they're just going to shoot rockets over indiscriminately to be like, hey, we're not actually in this thing. That's just a warning.
Now, let me preface, I'm not pro-Hamas. I'm not a pro-terrorist protester. I'm not pro-Hezbollah. I'm not pro-Israel either. I'm not like it's kind of like with the Ukraine war. If you came out and said, we shouldn't be helping Ukraine in this. Well, obviously you're pro-Putin at that point. You're pro-Russian. You're a communist, even though Russia's not communist anymore. But you're one of those guys. If you say, maybe we shouldn't kill all the freaking Palestinians, maybe we shouldn't decimate them, you're anti-Semitic, you're pro-Palestinian, you're pro-Hamas, you're pro-terrorist.
Yeah.
All these things. I mean, you got to be. You can't. I mean, there's no middle ground. There's no pro-people anymore.
Right.
It's like, I just don't want freaking kids to die. I just don't.
Yeah. Or dogs.
If that person killed a baby, yeah, he should get killed.
Right. Absolutely.
But all like the kids of this neighborhood should not be killed for that just because that baby got killed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like every time we go into stuff like this, we come off as pro the other side.
I know. Yes.
We're just anti the narrative.
Yes. Yeah. We're anti-narrative, anti-establishment, and we're anti-bully.
And like, I don't want to be in World War
No,
III. I just don't want to be there.
us to be involved with any other country giving money, weapons, or hookers.
Maybe hookers.
Well, I don't know. There's
mean,
so little.
Can we just keep the hookers here?
I think we need to. Can we protest that?
So what's your thoughts on this tactic of Israel cutting off all the supplies and forcing them into the desert and saying, if you stay here where there may be food and sustenance, we're going to consider you a terrorist and we're going to kill you. So go into the desert and die.
Well, and again, this shows you the mindset of Israel, right? They have one of the most advanced intelligence agencies in the entire world.
Right.
You're telling me they can't come up with better intelligence of where the Hamas is hidden out and stuff and do surgical strikes? They're just going to bomb a whole fucking block.
Well, did you hear about that hospital that got bombed?
Yes. It was Hamas that did it, though.
Was it, though?
That's
what Israel's saying.
Well, but I had heard Hamas even came out and was like, well, it was one of our bombs that went off on accident.
I just think it's funny how they're like, because I had heard or read something. It's like, and even a hospital was destroyed. but it was in Israel.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just
Well,
like,
and that's
maybe not that hospital, but I guarantee you, when they're just
Oh, yeah.
carpet bombing the region, they're taking out hospitals, they're taking out churches,
daycares.
daycares, kids. Like you're telling me, yeah, sure, the one hospital is your bright and shining example
Yeah.
of the fact. Oh, don't worry, Israel didn't blow up that hospital.
Right.
But
they're cutting
don't
off
look over
power
that
to all the
hospital
other
over
ones.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but they're cutting off fuel to the hospital, so
Right.
we don't need to bomb them.
Yeah.
Let's just cut off their fuel supply
Right.
so they all just freaking die.
And that's the thing.
It's cheaper that way.
Israel's got such an entitlement, right? Because they're the victims of the greatest
Right.
Holocaust of all time. So now they can use that as an excuse to do whatever they want to anybody who comes against them.
Right.
And they have a very small view. Like I said, they don't look at the Palestinians as people, so they have no problem going in and just blowing up a whole block.
They're all
and being
Hamas
like,
at this point.
right. Yeah. Well, we're just protecting ourselves.
How many people have you heard that said, well, just turn Gaza into glass?
A lot
just
of
a sheet
people.
of glass. Yeah. And it's like humanity doesn't exist in these circumstances. It was different. It was kind of different in the Ukraine-Russia war because, everybody was like, oh, let's go help Ukraine and stuff. But you didn't hear people that were just like, go kill all the fucking Russians.
Right.
You didn't hear that.
Yeah.
You heard them say, like, kill Putin, kill the Kremlin people, like, just, like, flip. Nobody was like, well, we should just, maybe Ukrainians. There was probably Ukrainians that were saying,
Zelensky,
kill all the Russians. But nobody here, at least, was saying it.
Remember, what was it? Facebook's they were not going to censor people for saying that.
Really?
Yeah. Remember that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we did a little bit of a show on it.
I remember it, but I don't know. But you do hear a lot of people, even like self-professed like Christian people, that are like, oh, we just need to just freaking wipe that whole, like, why don't we just wipe out the Gaza Strip? Like, what are we doing? Why don't we just erase it? It's just like, because I don't know.
Right. People have nothing to do with what's going on here.
Yeah, just can't people just be a reason to not carpet bomb an entire region, to just the fact that there's people there?
Would it really be that difficult for, I mean, if Israel doesn't want it, I'm sure the United States would be willing to, right? Bring like civilians out of there.
One would think so,
right? Maybe move them to Egypt, seeing how Egypt is so willing to help.
Yeah, I know.
Or Qatar,
I guess.
I mean, there's just there, but again, they don't care, right? They can do it in the name of Israeli defense.
Yeah, defending their right to exist.
Right.
I mean, that's all you got to say is
right.
Either anti-Semitism or defending the right to exist, and that's the only argument you need, because if you push back against either one of those things, you are anti-Semitic.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you don't support Israel's right to exist, their right to defend themselves. Right. But is turning a freaking whole civilian, like 2.3 million people, into a sea of glass, is that defending yourself?
Right.
Yes, I understand that shitty things have happened from the Gaza Strip onto Israeli civilians too. But does that mean we turn around and just do the same to them?
Yeah.
Out of self-defense?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but
no.
I'm freaking crazy. I've been kicked off YouTube a couple times, and we're on the verge of getting kicked off again.
This one might do it.
Yeah, I got a strike just last week, so it's coming. So coming back home, again, we talked about in the pre-show, the really long extended pre-show, how weird this one is to watch.
Yes.
The irony of people trying to like support the Palestinians, but then not piss off the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And it's just a weird dynamic that we're in. And there's been all these protests. Like I said, the pro-terrorist protests that are out there.
Yes, there was a letter written, let's see here, to Biden from a bunch of actors.
Oh, read that, please.
Okay. It says, Israeli Jews are not political abstractions. They are human beings, descendants of refugees who fled violent persecution and genocide, diverse members of a complex society with complex political and geopolitical dynamics.
You know who else you could say all those things about?
The Palestinians.
Palestinians.
Right.
Or, just about anybody in that region.
Refusing to condemn violence against them because of an obstinable political disagreement with their government is dehumanizing in the extreme. Progressives would never dehumanize any other entire people or nation because of disagreements over the policies of a government, and it's hard to imagine any reason for the willingness to do so in this case, other than anti-Jewish animus, unconscious, internalized, intentional, or otherwise. Jews in America are physically safe relative to our Israeli siblings, as we are not experiencing brutal terror attacks or rockets falling on our homes. Yet we are being dehumanized in the media, on social media, and among our progressive contemporaries with painful lies and distortions that reduce our lived experience, erase our history of our people, and equate our collective Jewish existence with white supremacy, oppression, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. There is a perverse irony in that the Jewish people have been victims of each of these depravities in living memory. Social media accounts with millions of followers are openly and ashamedly demonizing Jews in ways we cannot fathom, and in ways that would be unheard of if directed at any other minority community. Jewish people all over the world are experiencing an acute trauma and vulnerability that has been passed down for generations. It's epigenic, literally in our DNA, and is a trauma response that results from thousands of years of persecution and oppression. Thank you to the allies that have expressed their horror and concern and have spoken out in support. For those who have remained silent, please lend your voice and call out this ignominious evil. For those who have gloated about the obscene attacks and whitewashed them as legitimate political resistance, please reflect on the above and consider that spiritual sickness causes you to fail to recognize our humanity.
Now, they said we progressives.
Yes.
Not indicative of all progressives by any stretch.
Right.
Maybe the Hollywood progressives. You're like hitting a cord or something. You're hitting the mic cable and it's like making a lot of noise. So the same people that were so BLM supportive 4 years ago. What happens to BLM at this point? Because en masse BLM people are coming out against Israel, right? At least against the massive wipeout of the Palestinians.
Right.
How much is BLM going to be just washed out of the picture after this?
Yeah, I mean, there will be something that happens that causes them to go back in the limelight, but yeah, for now they're going to be pariahs.
Oh yeah, I don't know. They're going to be. I think BLM is done. Their days are numbered.
They will be for like the next decade.
Probably, yeah. But for now, yeah, BLM is done because they're not going to step up and be pro-Israel.
No.
Just maybe like corporate BLM will, but like at the lower levels where the money doesn't go anywhere. No,
because most of the roots of BLM doesn't have like Muslim roots as well through the 60s.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to remember the show we did a couple years ago.
But I see BLM being labeled terrorist in the near future.
I could see that
by the left. By the left, like not the left, but like the moderate / Hollywood left.
Yeah, right. I can
the
see
Joe
that.
Biden / Hollywood left, which is my polite way of saying the Jewish left, or the Jewish supporting left, like the people that work for them. Not saying, not being anti-Semitic, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're going to be
Bernie Sanders falls on this.
That's a great. That would be.
Has he come out and said it? Does he have Twitter or X?
I don't know. If somebody knows what Bernie Sanders has to say about the Israeli conflict, please let me know. Janet says, "My goodness, Bill, just breaking all the class rules tonight." The thing about Bill is for the last 3 years, he has never given a shit about the rules.
It's true.
It's like, hey, Bill, can you hold that mic closer to you? Yeah, sure. It's like, Bill, mic etiquette. We've been doing this for a long time. Mic etiquette. Stop tapping on the microphone. What the fuck is wrong with you? So these protests. I got this one. This is from the New York Post. Talks about like Arab protests or pro-Arab protests, anti-Israel protests. At least 19 people were arrested during this massive New York City protest, this anti-Israel protest. At least 19. That seems pretty extreme. That sounds like really small numbers to me. Police Sunday said 19 people were busted during the massive anti-Israel rally in Brooklyn, where thousands of rowdy demonstrators clashed with the cops. I don't know why this thing is over my words, so I'll just scroll down. It says during the course of a planned protest, which a permit was not attained, officers encountered a mostly peaceful crowd. That sounds familiar. Some demonstrators within the crowd chose to act in a combative, aggressive manner. Officers were pushed, shoved, and struck by some demonstrators within the crowd with the LRAD, long-range acoustic device, was utilized. They used a long-range acoustic device, and then they got shoved after that, and they were upset about it.
Oh, okay.
So the sonic
Gotcha.
cannon things
Okay.
that they used
Nice.
to break up riots and
Yeah.
stuff. It was like, oh, it was mostly peaceful until we used our sonic cannon, and then people started pushing us. And
I don't know why.
I don't know what they were so upset about. What did they expect? They didn't have a permit to exercise their First Amendment rights,
Right.
so we had to use this long-range acoustic cannon on them, and then they started pushing us. And
Well, they
so
should
we
have
had to
played
arrest them.
Dropkick Murphys. It would have had the same effect.
Says one young protest. Yeah, no kidding. One young protester was seen trying to keep cops from pulling away a woman holding a Zionism is genocide sign. Now, were they just trying to pull her away because she had a Zionism is genocide sign? Because that's all it seems to be here.
Right.
And somebody pushed a cop for trying to pull her away and got arrested for it. Now I feel like she should be able to hold that sign if she wants,
Well,
based
yeah.
on
Isn't that free speech?
the First Amendment. It says officers were struck with flying debris, which included eggs, fireworks, and bottles. Officers responded to their disruptive behavior and attempted to regain order by taking into custody those responsible for the actions. The NYPD encourages peaceful protest, but will not condone our officers being subjected to any form of violence. Grumpy Gnome says Bernie Sanders says Israel is violating international law with blockades on open-air prisons in Gaza. Interesting. So
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders is going to get disowned by his own people.
Yeah. Well, he said that when I was looking up, it says that he was trying to be fair and proportionate, kind of like Israel.
Sure. The three demonstrators taken into custody on misdemeanor charges were Marwan Hamad, Gabriella Flanagan, and Umbani Hamad.
Flanagan?
Yeah, isn't that Irish?
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
Which
you get
one
two
of these
Hamads,
things is not like the others?
two Hamads and a Flanagan. They were like, they probably just got back from the Dropkick Murphys concert. The unrest in Bay Ridge, which boasted a substantial Arab American population, is just the latest in sitting protests following the October 7th surprise attack on Israel by Hamas terrorists that killed more than 1,400 Israelis. So this specifies very like Arab American area, like population here involved. What you don't see a lot of is this next article, which talks about hundreds of U.S. Jews are protesting Israelis' Gaza assault.
Interesting.
That is interesting to me, and it's not surprising that it's not getting reported on.
Yeah.
They're probably imploding because they're left-wing Jewish activists, it says.
Yeah.
And so they don't know what to do. They don't know where to stand. It says left-wing Jewish activists, this is from The Guardian, left-wing Jewish activists campaigned against Israel's bombardment and blockade of Gaza this week in Washington, culminating in protests that have seen hundreds arrested for civil disobedience outside the White House and Congress. So 19 Arab and freaking Celtic people were arrested on that one.
Yes.
But hundreds of left-wing Jewish activists have been arrested for protesting against Israeli actions. It says groups like the Anti-Defamation League have dismissed the actions as unrepresentative of fellow Jews. They're like, they're not real Jews. Like, your Jewish opinion matters only if you're a real Jew and you support Israel.
Right.
If not, you're not a real Jew.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, what?
Yeah.
Who comes up with this shit? It's like,
right.
they're not representative of fellow Jews, signaling a growing rift in the community as the war in the Middle East continues to claim thousands of lives. Derek Ambrose says, Irish guy walked out of the bar and was like, what are we doing? Fucking shit up? All right, let's give him a good kicking, eh?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes. Police detained about 400 demonstrators on Wednesday after they staged a sit-down protest on Capitol Hill inside the Cannon Building, the oldest congressional office building, demanding an immediate ceasefire in the latest hostilities between Israelis and Palestinians. Now, would this be considered an insurrection?
I would think so.
No, because they're not real Jews. So
That's
I
true.
guess.
That's
The arrests follow a similar protest Monday when 50 activists were detained for blocking the gates of the White House. The events were organized jointly by Jewish Voice for Peace and, if not now, two leftist groups campaigning on an avowedly anti-Zionist and pro-Palestinian platform. There's so much to unpack in that sentence. So much. Like, if you are anti-Zionist but Jewish, are you not Jewish? Like, does that lessen your
right
Jewishness? I mean, it's got to.
Yeah,
At
I
least
would,
in like Israeli Jewish.
I would
people's
think they would
minds.
take your Jewish card.
I didn't think you could lose your Jewish card, but now I'm starting to wonder.
Yes, you can
Because I don't know, it's like their birthright, like Israel's, even US, like American-born Jews. It's
Right.
Israel's their birthright.
now. Right. Yeah.
But if you're anti-Zionist, then I feel like you would lose your
it's not-
birthright.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is that
yes.
how? Who was it in the Bible that lost his birthright?
Oh, what is it?
It was Jacob's brother,
Yes.
whichever one.
Esau.
There you go. Yeah, he was anti-Zionist, so he lost his birthright. Oh wow, we're pissing off a lot of people tonight, probably. Demonstrators, some of them waving Palestinian flags, have accused Israel of preparing to commit genocide in Gaza in retaliation for the October 7th attacks by Hamas that killed more than 1,400 Israelis and resulted in nearly 200 being kidnapped. The author and social activist Naomi Klein told protesters gathered on Washington's National Mall that Israel was attempting genocide by making use of the Jewish fears of another genocide against Jews. She added, "We will not let our fears of anti-Semitism be manipulated in this way." I am glad there are some smart people out there that are like
saying that she's anti-Semitic.
Well, obviously, yeah. Well, I mean, you can be like black and racist if you're
That's true.
Republican, or
Yes.
if you're pro-Trump,
That's
but
true.
black,
Self-hating
you're self.
Jews.
Yeah, these must be self-hating Jews. But coming out and saying, kind of sounds like Kanye West out there, like Jewish Kanye West coming
Well,
out and saying,
they haven't come out saying that. Well, Hitler had some good ideas.
Hitler wasn't a bad guy. Hitler was really, really great. I love Hitler. Please don't clip that out. She comes out and is like, we're not going to let you say that us being against genocide is anti-Semitism. We're not going to let you play that against us and fear us into supporting this bullshit that's going on. Smart, even if it was blatantly, completely wrong,
right?
For them to stand up and just be like, we're not going to let you do that just because we're Jewish. We're not going to let you play into our fears to agree with you.
Yeah, and good for them.
Fully support that. Grumpy Gnome says apparently anti-Zionist is anti-Semitism. Liz Cheney said so. Liz Cheney is a war whore.
That's true. She is.
I mean,
like her dad was.
I was going to say the apple doesn't fall from the tree, far from the tree. Liz Cheney's just as much of a war whore as her father was.
I'm going to clip that.
That's fine. That's fine. We won't be on YouTube much longer anyway. It's fine. In response to the staunchly pro-Israel Anti-Defamation League, formed more than 100 years ago to combat anti-Semitism, said the activists belong to the far-left radical organizations who do not represent overwhelming majority of the Jewish community that we scared into being pro-Zionist or whatever. In a statement, the ADL Washington, D.C. regional director said the activists were anti-Zionists that challenge Israel's very right to exist. Let's be very clear. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. You called it, Grumpy. It's right there. The ADL said so. Liz Cheney said so. So it must be right.
Yes.
David Friedman, the conservative former U.S. ambassador to Israel during Donald Trump's presidency, went further, tweeting before Monday's protest, "Any American Jew attending this rally is not a Jew."
Wow.
We called it.
Yeah.
We took their Jew card from him.
Damn.
Yes, I said it, he says. Like, I don't. David Friedman has the authority to pull
Yeah.
your Jew card from
Yeah.
you. You
You've
should be
been-
afraid.
You have been uncircumcised.
That would be really gross and interesting. Some of those present were indeed not Jewish, but both Monday and Wednesday's events were addressed by rabbis. Brant Rosen, a rabbi from LA, told demonstrators Wednesday that they were witnessing one of the most consequential moral moments that any of us will experience in our lifetime. He said future generations would ask, did we act or did we stand idly by while genocide was committed in our name? Some attendees recounted having their Jewishness questioned by co-religionists. What's a co-religionist? Or even family members because of their antipathy towards Israel.
Mhm. I would say co-religionists are like people that are in the same religion.
This Phoebe, who is 61, says, I have been called a self-loathing Jew and spat on many times. You called that too.
Yeah.
Man, we're just calling it all. She's a musician from Alexandria, Virginia, who withheld her last name and said she visited Israel 4 times. My brother and his family live in Israel. It's caused huge rifts in my family. It's really tragic. Mel Tansman, Grumpy Gnome, asked what uncircumcised means. I would like to know as well. Can you demonstrate?
No.
Mel Tansman, who's 72, a social worker from New York, says, I have never been to Israel. I've never been a fan of Zionism or any kind of religious state that is dominated by one group. You are called a self-hating Jew if you are concerned with what's happening to the Palestinians. Any criticism of Israel is seen as anti-Semitic. Wow, all this shit that we've been saying.
Yeah.
We have Jewish allies that are saying the same thing, that are
Yes.
getting their Jew card pulled from them.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's gotta be worse than how those people feel about like schmucks like us.
Yeah, right?
Like, hey, you probably shouldn't just wipe other people. It's like, yeah, well, you're just fucking white guy
Yeah.
that doesn't understand.
Right.
But a Jewish person that's like, hey, you probably shouldn't just
Yeah.
genocide the Palestinian people.
Wow.
That's betrayal
Yeah.
of
You
the
know what?
worst
You
kind.
can't call people Nazis anymore. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
we're revoking your right to
Yeah.
call people Nazis. We're revoking your Jewishness.
Yes.
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 All those other things. Can't work at. Never mind. We'll
I was
just
gonna
stop. We'll
say,
just stop. All
Don't
right.
go too far.
It's about time for a break. It's weird because there are people that I would never, ever in my right mind think that I would like be on the same page with.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get into this a little more in the second half. One being like AOC.
Mhm.
Like some of the things she said, she's probably a talking head for somebody,
Oh,
but
I'm
at
sure.
least the thing she said, I'm like, you know what? You're fucking right. You're absolutely right. And people are like, oh, she's just a anti-Semitic, pro-left, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, part of the squad.
Yeah.
She's always been anti-Israel, blah, blah, blah.
Who's the Republican senator? Tim Scott is trying to get them all kicked out of the Senate.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're like, maybe we shouldn't like kill all the Palestinians?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that more. Like I said, I've never done a show where I'm like, you know what? She's kind of right. Of all the people there, AOC is the voice of reason.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Maybe they'll put you in her comic book.
Oh God, I hope so. So yeah, that we're gonna get into a quick break before we officially get kicked off YouTube, and then we're gonna come back. We got to get into some of the other wars because we're talking about World War III,
Yeah.
but we spent way too much time on
Yeah.
the Israel thing, which I didn't intend to, but here we are.
Yes.
So Biden went to Israel apparently.
Yes. I know
Yeah.
he was bragging all about that.
Yeah, he was
Only president to
the
ever
only
go.
president to go to Israel during wartime.
Yes. Yes.
So he's got that going for him.
Yeah.
Then he can add that to his resume of when he went to Ukraine during wartime
That's right.
and walked through the walked
Yes.
across the stage that looked kind of like a war zone
Yes.
with no bodyguards
Yeah.
around him. Yeah, at that time. So we're going to come back. We'll wrap up the Israel thing and then talk a little bit about kind of what's going on in the rest of the world. So take 2 or 3 minutes, go grab yourself a beverage, and we'll be back very shortly. If I can never find my buttons, ever. We will be right back.
Take a moment and remember the feeling. When they called you not essential. When they dictated what you could do, where you could go, how you could breathe. It's disgusting, isn't it? And they're trying to do it again. We've seen what happens when the people lose control. When politicians and unelected bureaucrats make the big decisions on our behalf, whether we like them or not. When the choices are taken away from us one by one. We've seen what happens when they strip away medical freedom, when they trample on informed consent, when they dismiss our cries of justice. They laughed at us. They called us names.
Rest in peace, Wheezy.
Them, their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
And they shamed us for not going along with their every demand. Enough already. It's time to hold these tyrants accountable. In the midst of them trying to do it again, this wasn't a public health measure. This was an act of war against a peaceful people. But a reckoning is coming, and we're leading the charge. This campaign is for all of us. I'm asking you to join this movement that's for every single person who felt the crushing weight of mandates, the sting of being called unessential, the pain of having your liberties stripped away. I'm Joshua Smith, and I'm running because you are essential, and because our freedoms are non-negotiable. Not last time, not this time, not ever again.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good.
We faced the challenges. We felt the pain, but we're not defeated. Together, we have the power to create a brighter future, one where liberty thrives and tyranny dies. I endorse prosecuting the COVID tyrants and using Guantanamo Bay to lock them away for their crimes against humanity. In the face of all of this happening again, where they think we're stupid enough to fall for it, in 2024, a vote for me is a vote for vengeance. Go to joshuasmith2024.com to find out how you can help.
we're back. The war kick off while I was gone.
No,
Not
we're
yet.
still waiting. Still
waiting.
watch. Did anybody have 8/26 on October 24th, 2023?
I didn't see that one. So we're going to be taking a poll of when you think World War III will officially kick off. The month and the year.
Yeah, and if you get it right, we'll send you something.
So I briefly teased that I kind of sided with AOC for the first time in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
So this is coming from Fox News, so you know they're going to be like, she's an idiot.
Yeah, right.
This is titled, "The Squad Dems Face Backlash Calling for Ceasefire Over Israel Attacks." Let's see. So the Squad, which is that Talib,
Yeah, out of
there's
Minnesota,
AOC, there's that other one. The other one, yeah.
Yeah.
Squad House Democrats, known for criticizing the state of Israel, faced massive backlash from conservatives online over their milk toast. What does that mean?
Milk toast?
Yeah.
Oh, like kind of like doesn't like kind of bland, like they didn't really seem like they
Like toast dipped in milk?
Yeah, kind of.
Milk toast
This is chocolate
statements
milk.
following Hamas's deadly surprise attack on Israel. Several members of informal progressive caucus published statements on Saturday condemning the violence and calling for the conflict to de-escalate. Of the squad members, Representative Rashida Tlaib of Michigan has been silent on the attacks on Israel. So she hasn't said anything.
Oh,
so she hasn't condemned Hamas, which is what they're really getting at.
Gotcha. Oh,
Fox-
obviously.
Fox News Digital reached out to Tlaib's office for comment on the deadly surprise terrorist attack on Israel, but did not receive a response. Meanwhile, Squad Queen, Representative, I like how they call her Squad Queen, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called for a ceasefire and de-escalation after the surprise terrorist attack on Hamas. So she's obviously anti-Semitic, and she's an idiot.
Absolutely.
She says, "Today is devastating for all those seeking a lasting peace and respect for human rights in Israel and Palestine." How dare her call for human rights in Israel and Palestine?
Yeah.
Like you can't support Israel's right to exist and call for
a ceasefire.
Human rights in Palestine. She says, "I condemn Hamas's attacks in the strongest possible terms." But she goes on to say, "No child and family should ever endure that kind of violence and fear. And this violence will not solve the ongoing oppression and occupation in the region. An immediate ceasefire and de-escalation is urgently needed to save lives," she added. Ocasio-Cortez's statement drew criticism from South Carolina GOP Representative Nancy Mace, who referred to her Democrat colleague as a Hamas apologist. Now, out of everything I just read that AOC said, what part of that was a Hamas apologist?
Yeah,
Was it when she said, "I strongly condemn Hamas"?
Right.
Like to the utmost most of condemnations, like the strongliest of condemnations. But
perhaps
because she said,
enough.
maybe we shouldn't fucking kill all the Palestinians.
Yeah.
I mean, she did say, Grumpy Gnome says, did they spell it Queen with a K? No, it was with a Q, unfortunately. Now she did call it the occupation, which is definitely anti-Zionist sentiment, which is what's probably bringing all
that's
this on.
Again, that's not really the issue. I don't think. The issue is, I mean, she's right, and I hate to say that.
Right, exactly.
Waiting for something to fall on me.
Exactly. Mace goes on to write, Hamas apologist asking for a ceasefire after one side launches a massive terrorist attack. Nice try.
Yeah.
Representative Ilhan Omar, the Minnesota one. So there's the Michigan one, which is Tlaib, and then Omar, which is Minnesota.
Okay.
Who has a history of controversial statements about Israel, condemned the horrific attack or acts we are seeing unfold today in Israel against children, women, the elderly, and the unarmed people who are being slaughtered and taken hostage by Hamas. Such senseless violence will only repeat the back and forth cycle we've seen, which cannot allow to continue.
Makes sense.
It's very Hamas apologistic there too,
Right.
by saying, hey, if we keep going back and forth, we're just going to keep going back and forth and more people die. We need to call for de-escalation and a ceasefire. I will keep advocating for peace and justice throughout the Middle East. How dare her call for peace and justice in the Middle East?
Yeah.
Fox and Friends weekend co-host Rachel Campos Duffy criticized Omar in response to her statement, saying the Congresswoman will never acknowledge that there was peace in the Middle East and Europe when Trump was in office.
Who cares?
Like, what does that
Yeah, I
fucking
know.
do with
That
it?
has nothing to do with what's going on.
How dare her call for peace now when there was peace when Donald Trump was here and she didn't like
She
Donald
never would have
Trump.
admitted to that.
She doesn't like Donald Trump,
Yeah.
so she doesn't like peace.
Yeah, so obviously she's evil.
Conservative commentator John Hassan also blasted Omar over her tweet. Notice how she only condemns the acts against children, women, the elderly, and the unarmed. She's implying that attacking and killing IDF forces is fine.
That's not what she said.
No, I think she was calling it out on both sides.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe just don't kill
Yeah.
children. If you guys want to have a war, can you keep the kids and the old people out of it? In 2021, Omar landed in hot water with senior members of her own party, as well as her opponents, when she compared American Israel to murderous terrorist groups, Hamas and the Taliban, saying the two democracies have committed unthinkable atrocities, which she's not wrong there either.
Right.
We have committed unthinkable atrocities.
Yeah.
We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban. Again, she's absolutely fucking right.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but she is. I asked the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, where people are supposed to go for justice. Additionally, during why are we going back to 2021 in the first place? Additionally, during 2021 ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, Omar said the fighting stopping wasn't enough, and that the U.S. was underwriting crimes against humanity through support for Israel, and that there needed to be accountability for every war crime committed. All right. There was one line that AOC said that I agreed with. I don't like, they're really going deep into Omar because she had the most to say. Conservative commentator known as Comfortably Smug criticized the squad in response to Presley's post. The squad telling Israel to stand down after it was attacked and hundreds of its citizens massacred. Incredible. So the line that AOC said that I can't find in here was, what price is basically what I said. What price of innocent lives is acceptable for targeting Hamas?
Mm-hmm.
Like at what cost? Like how many is acceptable?
Right.
Like what number of civilian casualties or hospitals, or like what's the number? Can we put a number on that to say, hey, that was worth it?
Yeah.
That was worth it because we took out Hamas in the process.
Right.
It's just like everywhere. Like who was that chick back in after one of the wars on terrorism, maybe both of them, that was like, we had to kind of weigh out this, and we feel that it was all worth it in the end. Like the end result made all those
everything else
dead bodies that made it worth it.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting how
it is. Put a price on life.
And it's disgusting that I have to agree with AOC on something.
It is. Right.
Like, or the squad, they're like saying, why don't we just not fucking fight wars? Why don't we just work towards peace? And I just want to be like, come to our side.
Right.
Because
it's like, you're so close.
Yeah. Well, you're not that close, but you're close.
Well, yeah.
Like closer than you were yesterday with us. It's just like, come to like the libertarian side. That's like, we don't like war. Come to the Ron Paul's been saying this since 2001. Before that, I'm sure, but Ron Paul was called freaking a nutcase too in 2001 when he said, how about we don't go fucking fight wars?
Right.
And now AOC, don't say I'm comparing to AOC to Ron Paul by any stretch, but I'm just saying, you got somebody that's like, how about we just don't let people fucking kill people? How about we like de-escalate this and like push more for like a peaceful Middle East? And people are like, she's nuts.
Yeah.
There's terrorists there. You're calling for peace. There's
Yeah.
terror. Like, we got to kill everybody because of terrorists.
Right.
How fucking dare
But
you?
and Israel's missing a huge opportunity to capture the whole like hearts and minds of the people by not escalating things, right? And trying to take a more humanitarian approach and be like, look, we're trying to make this work. Let's talk about this.
The thing is this. Again, goodbye, YouTube. Israel is not like other countries. Israel doesn't have to do that to play the victim card.
Oh, I know that. I know, because they have 75 years ago.
They have a perpetual, like, never-ending victim card.
Yeah.
That they can do whatever they want and still be like, well, this is me defending my right to exist.
Yeah. I mean, that letter from the celebrities
right.
to Biden, right? It's built in our DNA,
yeah.
right?
We inherited victimism
yeah.
from our ancestors 75, 1,000, 5,000 years ago. We've always been victims. We've just inherited this victimhood so we can do what we want and still play the victim. They don't have to be like, well, we're going to be the nice guy here because we're the victim. We didn't do anything wrong. We're the victim here. No, it's just like, fucking kill them all, but we're the victim.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference.
Yeah.
It's a weird difference. And that's why it's so hilarious just watching people's minds explode over this. Like, well, it's Israel. They're obviously victims, but we're the left and we're supposed to be on the side of the brown people.
Yeah.
And they're like rolling over the brown people, but they are Israel and they're victims, but the brown people are victim. Like,
yeah.
Mind explosion.
But that's why I know you didn't listen to the whole Joe Biden speech.
No.
Are we going to talk?
We're going to get to the Joe Biden
I'll
speech,
hold off then.
But you can.
Well, so his approach to trying to justify it was odd to me.
Which one? The one where he said
we can all make out like bandits, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Because I got this written down. He said it. What did he say? Jesus, I have it written down somewhere. It's a great investment.
Yeah,
it's going to have like a great return or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah. He's talking about like, okay, we're going to make the Middle East better. We're going to stabilize it. And then he mentioned this Indo-Eastern European Railroad going through the whole thing.
All that. Like, I wanted you to bring that up.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this before. And he's talking about how it's going to increase trade in the area. And it sounded like almost like a counterpoint to
like the China Beltway.
To the China Beltway. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so it's like almost, I mean, there's a total agenda going to it.
Does it go through Israel and Ukraine? Because if it does, that all makes sense.
Well, and I'm willing to bet it does, because then he's talking about this money he wants. And then he goes and he's like, well, we need the money because we send our stockpile of weapons and military to Ukraine and Israel. And then we take that money and we use that money to rebuild
our own military.
And that's going to give millions
thousands
of Americans jobs.
And I didn't even hear it, but I knew exactly what you were going to say about this.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, yeah, it's like, well, we need this money to restock our it's not sending that money to Ukraine. We need to restock our own.
Yeah.
Because you send all our fucking guns to Ukraine. We wouldn't have to restock our own if you didn't send them all to Ukraine.
It's like, oh, well, there's bomb building factories in Arizona that's going to give thousands of jobs to.
Isn't that great? Right? Like all these weapons of mass destruction that we're giving jobs to, and this is a great investment. It sounds like he was selling timeshares.
It did. It really did. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, of all the different ways to go to try to justify this, that's what you're going with?
Right. It's like, hey, we're all going to make money, guys.
Yeah, we're going to stabilize the Middle East.
Hey, you remember, you know what this is? That we are going to go to war because the economy is so shitty right now that he needs a bump in the economy before re-election time.
Yeah.
Grumpy Gnome has to go. So, bye, Grumpy Gnome.
Bye, Grumpy Gnome.
Thanks for joining in the stupidity that we have going on here. So, like, I mean, let's get into the whole what Biden had to say about this, because that's really all it was we need more money to throw at things. And the funny part was this kind of transition away from Israel, because like this is in response to Israel, but it's like $100 billion and $65 billion is going to go to Ukraine.
I know, right?
It's like, well, nobody's looking at Ukraine. Let's throw another $14 billion is going to go to Israel, but $65 billion to Ukraine. It's like,
yeah,
where's this coming from? Because last I heard you were asking for 24 billion to Ukraine.
right.
Why? How did this number all of a
It's like,
sudden get to 60?
Okay, I guess. All right, 24 billion. I guess is a lot. So let's do 100 billion, and we'll split it.
Yeah,
65, 25, 35.
Biden demands $100 billion for wars in Ukraine, Israel, and a planned conflict with Iran and China.
That's
so
ominous.
What did I name this one? World War III watch? Yeah, you still think there's not going to be a World War III anytime soon?
No.
When Joe Biden's like, I'm just going to fund the entire World War.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if he feels like he can make a profit off of it, right?
Now, I read something about Joe Biden. Apparently, it's interesting how they word things so different when it comes to Israel. Apparently, he's been like pro-Israel because Biden went to Israel this week, like I said. Did you hear how he's like, I'm a pro-Zionist, or I've always like you don't got to be Jewish to be a Zionist or pro-Zionist. I'm Irish Catholic and I've always been pro-Zionist. Apparently, and I read an article about this. Like he's always had close ties with like Netanyahu and Israel and shit like that, which is weird because Netanyahu is now a far right extremist, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, he's not now because
he's
last week he was, but this week he's like
he's Bibi.
Yeah. Apparently, and they said this as a good thing, Joe Biden has received more donations from pro-Israeli groups in his time in office than any other politician.
Oh yeah, that's
so that's a good thing because it's Israel. It's like, well, that just says how much he's been in support of Israel. No, that says how much Israel has been financing his ass. Yes.
Yeah.
And now when it came to Ukraine, it's like, well, I don't know, we got to kind of cover up the money trail between Ukraine and Biden, like sweep that under the rug, or the Republicans are like, oh, there's obviously money there, something shady. But then when it comes to Israel, it's like, oh, he's just really has close to, like, he's just loves Israel.
Yeah.
So they love him back in the form of financial donations.
Yeah, that's how
it's just freaking weird. But not enough for him to give them $60 billion.
No.
Says U.S. President Joe Biden's speech Thursday night. Now, granted, this comes from, what was the?
The World Socialist
World Socialist website.
Yeah.
So again, not saying I side with these people.
Yes, but they bring up some very
they break
good
it down.
points.
Yeah, they break it down better than most will because they're not for all this bullshit wars either.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes you can find common ground with people that you wouldn't think you ever would, like AOC, for example. U.S. President Joe Biden's speech Thursday night on national television was a demand for vast new military spending to expand the ongoing U.S.-NATO proxy war against Russia and Ukraine and pour billions more into Israel's aggression against Gaza and suppression of the Palestinian people. Derek Ambrose says, you've heard of girl math. I introduce you to government math. It's done with billions of dollars and never checks out. How long before it comes out that Biden has a kid on the board of some major company in Israel?
Oh, I'm sure
but that'll be fine, though.
Yeah.
That's fine. Biden's speech was not a serious attempt to convince anyone or rationally explain U.S. foreign policy. It consisted of a series of non sequiturs strung one after the other with no coherent argument binding them together. Biden drew a parallel between Hamas and Russian President Vladimir Putin that objectively did not make the slightest sense. But as he spoke, it became clear that the main aim of the speech was to utilize the war in Gaza to procure a massive spending bill for the war in Ukraine to prop up Zelensky's government following the failure of its summer offensive. Indeed, the New York Times has reported that $60 billion of the $100 billion spending bill Biden proposed in his speech will go to fight the war in Ukraine against Russia. This figure is more than twice Biden's initial request for $24 billion in August. Some $14 billion will go to Israel. Despite its rambling and incoherent nature, the main import of the speech is clear. America is hurtling towards global war, and the President of the United States, the so-called commander-in-chief, is demanding $100 billion in additional funds, on top of the $1 trillion they already proposed for all military spending, to finance this explosion of military aggression. Unmentioned in the speech, but widely reported in advance of Friday's formal request to Congress, is the fact that Biden will also seek billions more in U.S. military aid to Taiwan. An effort to provoke further conflict with China and to militarize the U.S.-Mexico border and intensify U.S. intervention throughout Latin America. Aware of the deepening opposition to the U.S. war in Ukraine, now ending its 18th month and apparently mired in endless, costly, and bloody stalemate, Biden sought to bootstrap the conflict in Israel to justify further spending in Ukraine, which will get the lion's share of whatever military aid bill ultimately emerges from Congress. While Biden declared that the war was at an inflection point, this is not because war is something new to the U.S. On the contrary, America has been at war for more than 30 years, and the countries it has invaded, occupied or bombed amount to a significant portion of the world's population. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, most of North Africa, Bosnia, Kosovo, Serbia, Sudan. That's really depressing.
Yeah.
What is new is the transformation of these wars into a more general conflict, or as Leon Trotsky described it on the eve of World War II, when separate clashes and bloody local disturbances must inevitably coalesce into a conflagration of world dimensions. It's a lot of big words.
Yeah.
The contours of this new world war can be inferred from Biden's $100 billion bill. It's aimed at expanding the war against Russia, using the conflict between Israel and Palestine to trigger a new war against Iran, which you've seen that. Remember, we talked a couple weeks ago about, what's the dumbass's name?
Which one?
The senator that kept calling out.
Oh, Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, yeah, that was just like, don't you do it, Iran, if you do it.
Yeah.
If Iran, if you do it, we're coming after you, Iran. This is like a day after Hamas attack from Gaza.
They already had their eyes on it.
Yes. It says the U.S. administration is shaping the battlefield of what amounts to one continuous front in a global conflict whose goal is U.S. dominance of the Eurasian landmass from Eastern Europe through the Middle East, Central Asia, and ultimately China, which is probably that road initiative that Biden was referring to. I wish I had that clip. This is combined with efforts to safeguard its Western Hemisphere backyard by militarizing the U.S.-Mexico border and disposing of political inconveniences and potential obstacles like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. If this appears to be a megalomaniacal program for global conquest, it articulates the outlook of the megalomaniacs on Wall Street and in the Pentagon, for whom Biden speaks when he delivers his, what's with all these words? Peons. We'll say that, to the ability of America to do anything, as long as it mobilizes its full resources. Biden even used the language of Wall Street in making his argument, and the next enormous payout to the Pentagon and the U.S. arms industry, declaring it's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations. American workers will pay with their living standards and social benefits in the lives of their sons and daughters, but war will certainly pay for Raytheon, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin, and for the big banks and hedge funds that control them. It goes on and on and on. It says Biden has already made himself the co-author of war crimes in Gaza through his visit to Tel Aviv and embrace of Netanyahu. At least 4,000 Palestinians have already been killed, but the death toll is likely to rise. 5 or even 6 figures in the course of the ground invasion. Yeah, they haven't even started the ground invasion yet because they're waiting until after Biden left to start the ground invasion.
Yeah.
And Biden said, that was a weird thing too, because Biden's like, I'm not going to come visit you unless you allow aid into Gaza.
Well,
did that ever happen? Did they get
No,
the aid
not
there?
yet. No. I mean, we got a couple carriers out there now.
I did see that 20 trucks were allowed into Gaza.
Interesting.
20 from like Egypt or something. Now that accounts for like 4% of the amount that was allowed in pre-war time of humanitarian aid, which now that there's a war going on, they probably need more humanitarian aid. And this is 4% of what was 20 trucks. What do you think that's going to do for what I say, 2.3 million people?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
Did you see his slip where he's like, I'm not seeking to get American troops on Russian soil.
I didn't see that.
And then he backtracked and he's like, I'm not seeking to get us, involved in, American troops involved in, this
Israel.
or whatever. But it was just like kind of a weird slip.
Yeah, it was one of those weird Freudian slips, like George Bush when he said, Iraq instead of
Yes,
Ukraine or
yeah.
something. I don't remember. I don't remember what that was, but
Yeah.
Biden already made himself. I already read that. In one revealing reference toward the end of his speech, Biden invoked the late Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who described the United States as the indispensable nation. He didn't say that's who said that. Madeleine Albright said, because that was in this article, said about the Iraqi war and the Iraqi children that died.
Yes.
And 500,000 Iraqi children that died just due to lack of medicine and nutrients after the war. She said, Madeleine Albright said, I think it's a very hard choice, but we think the price was worth it.
Yeah, and she's a horrible person too.
Clearly. So what do you think of this spending bill? Because it doesn't break it down.
Yeah.
You watch the whole fucking speech.
Yeah.
What besides his ball chin?
Yeah, I mean, and basically that was the big thing is
Did
that
he even talk much about Israel, or was it like more towards
a little
Ukraine?
bit? No, it was. I mean, it was equal parts. He tried to do a strong comparison between Putin and Hamas, and the intent of wiping out
democracy off the face of the planet.
And he was very much all about pro-democracy, about the American people being able to do whatever they when they come together they can accomplish anything, and that we need to come together as Americans to fight for democracy, and we need to fight for freedoms. And I mean, he was very big on that. He kept throwing those platitudes out there, so it was kind of creepy.
Derek says, I hope they gave the man some ice cream after he made that speech.
It was a great performance.
They gave him a lot of ice cream.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask myself and ask you, why do you think there's all of a sudden another giant push while we're all focused on Israel? He's like, and by the way, I want to send $60 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think's behind that?
I mean, I think that's his priority still. Is the Russia?
He's got a lot of money in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's made a lot of money there. He's going to keep making a lot of money there, and this is just another way that he can build that up. Yeah, he's going to send some money to Israel, some money over to Taiwan, but the bulk of it is still Ukraine.
Right.
I think that he's got too much invested right now.
Now, what I found interesting, I found this in Ukraine news today. Apparently, on November 8th, the EU is going to assess whether to allow Ukraine to become a member of the EU.
Oh, my.
That's coming up fast.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was
a couple weeks.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew they were going to try to get them into NATO, but they're trying to get them into the EU on November 8th.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has anything to do with all of a sudden, hey, we need to throw a lot of weapons at Ukraine so they can kind of get this thing under a little bit more under control before we allow them into the EU.
Check this out here. Okay, so this was past September 9th, 2023. This is from the White House. Okay. Today, we are the leaders of the United States, India, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, France, Germany, Italy, and the European Union announced a memorandum of understanding committing to work together to develop a new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, announced at the G20 leaders event in the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment.
How did we miss this?
I don't know. This landmark corridor is expected to stimulate economic development through enhanced connectivity and economic integration across two continents, thus unlocking sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Though the
sustainable for who?
Exactly. Through the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, we aim to usher in a new era of connectivity with a railway linked through ports connecting Europe, Middle East, and Asia. The United States and our partners intend to link both continents to commercial hubs and facilitate the development and export of clean energy, lay undersea cables, and link energy grids and telecommunication lines to expand reliable access to electricity, enable innovation of advanced clean energy tech, and connect communities to secure, stable internet. Okay, blah, 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 blah. All right, my favorite part. Our approach aims to unlock new investments from partners, including the private sector, and spur the creation of quality jobs.
That's the investment he was talking about. It's not it's an
Clinton.
investment of democracy.
Yeah.
No, it's the investment into
money.
BlackRock,
Treadstone, all those guys, get them built up in that area.
Right. So
Hunters,
What do you think
hookers, and
of?
blow.
I hadn't heard that, which is really interesting that we missed that. They
Yeah,
snuck that one under the rug.
Yeah, that was last month.
What do you think of this Ukraine
Yeah,
being
well,
assessed for EU membership
I mean,
conveniently in like a week?
yeah, I mean that came out
And
of
we're
nowhere.
getting ready to throw $60 billion. Do
Yeah.
you know what Ukraine gets out of this?
Hmm.
Let me scroll down because the EU is going to invest in Ukraine, obviously.
Yeah.
The Commission's proposal for the review includes earmarking 50 billion euros to support Ukraine through 2027,
Jeez.
as well as assigning another 15 billion to handle unauthorized immigration. Budget decisions also require unanimity in the bloc, and some members countries have asked to also raise spending on tackling natural disasters like wildfires and floods, sources say. It's another money thing. But I assume kind of like NATO, the EU probably doesn't. Well, maybe they do. If Ukraine joins the EU while they're fighting this war, does that drag the whole EU into this war?
I would think so.
Because they weren't able to get sucked into this war because they weren't part of NATO.
Right.
NATO wasn't going to take them in while they're in an ongoing conflict with
Russia.
if they don't have control over their borders. Remember,
Right,
that was
right.
one of the stipulations of NATO. Like, you got to have control of your borders. Well, Ukraine has very not control of their borders. So
Yeah.
they're not going to be NATO anytime soon unless NATO changes
Yeah.
the rules. But if you drag them into the EU, a lot of members of the EU are also members of NATO. Does
Right.
that drag, like, what is the, like, what requirements do you have to fellow EU states that get
Right.
attacked? Like, I know they have like these financial obligations. What are their like military obligations?
Right.
When it
I
comes
imagine similar to what it would have been with NATO.
well, then if members of the EU that are part of NATO get dragged into this war, does that drag the US into the war because of NATO connections? This whole thing is just freaking
Well, and the other part of that is looking at that, what they were talking about with that trade corridor.
Mhm.
It now puts Ukraine at the end of it and Europe at the front of it.
interesting.
Yes.
So Ukraine to Europe, Belt Road Initiative.
Mhm.
Africa's got to be in there somewhere.
Oh, you know it
we got to
does.
get Africa involved. Got to drag Africa in so we can rape them more of their resources and stuff. So I think that why does shit keep
And that kind of causes me to maybe amend my prediction for World War III.
Yeah.
If they're going to make Ukraine part of the EU.
Yeah, I feel like Putin's going to be a little perturbed about that.
Yeah.
Like almost as irked as if they were to join NATO. I would feel that would almost be like one and the same. Like,
I would think so.
they are saying, we're part of the West now. We are not part of you.
Yeah.
Like Russia's like, no, you're part of the old
Yeah.
Soviet Union. Well,
Yeah.
you're part of us. And they're like, actually, we're part of them now.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not going to end well.
Yeah.
Derek says EU earmarks 50 billion over 3 years. US gives them 60 billion in an afternoon.
Yeah, right.
I-
That just shows our crazy spending.
that just shows our commitment.
Yeah.
Our commitment to Ukraine. Like, we commit so much harder. Now how much kickback does Biden get out of that 50 billion euros?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like, you know, he's like a majority owner of Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
The Biden family is. So
Yeah.
when they get 60 billion, if he's 51% owner, doesn't he get
Yeah. Oh, I'm
like
sure.
$26 billion of that? I would
I'm
think
sure
so.
they'll make him. He'll probably become ambassador to Ukraine after he leaves the office.
He's gonna. There's no way he leaves office alive.
No, I agree with that. But
So, I don't know. What do you think's? What do you think we should be looking at more, Ukraine or Israel right now? I feel like Israel's a big fucking distraction.
I think Israel is too, because Israel is what's going to get everybody's attention. I think Ukraine is still the money pot.
Oh, I mean, it's got to be. Well, they're not. You know, besides him getting a lot of campaign donations from pro-Israel groups, I don't think Israel's giving a lot of money.
No.
Is letting go of a lot of money. They're not known for letting go a lot of money.
Wow. Wow.
not saying anything. Just saying they're just not known for it. But Ukraine, on the other hand, not so tight-fisted on the money, I guess. Jeez, I mean, I'm all in it. At this point, I'm just all in. Might as well. So,
yeah, no, I feel like Ukraine is still where the primary focus is. I mean, that's why 65 million is going to, or billion is going
obviously,
there.
like,
and
it shows the priority.
Yeah.
When only 14's going to Israel. 65's going, or 60's going, 60%'s going to, or 60 billion's going to Ukraine, 14 billion to Israel. That makes up a total of 74 billion. Where's the other money going?
Taiwan.
Taiwan or the Mexico border. Remember, they talked about that. What the fuck's going on in Taiwan?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the one nobody's talking about. I mean,
nobody's talking about it. He was even like very careful not to mention China and Taiwan, because he's like, in that speech, he was like, our adversaries are looking on what happens in Ukraine and Russia right now and seeing how we handle that situation. Our adversaries and our allies are looking on the situation in Israel right now. Didn't mention China, didn't mention Taiwan, not a single time. But again, there's a lot of people in the know that are like, yeah, there's billions about to go to Taiwan too. Like billions. And again, like I said in the pre-show, I was like, well, let's look up and see what's going on in Taiwan right now. 3 pages on all of Google News, in its entirety of the Google News related to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Like, not just the Taiwan war, just Taiwan in general. You get to page 3 and it's like, that's all we got. So that's the only news on Taiwan.
Yeah.
Never, nothing else. And it was all, you know what it was all, like the first 2 pages was about? And this is what's going to pull the West into World War III. This is what's going to pull Americans, like our American spirit. We're going to be, it's kind of like, this is Pearl Harbor 2023. China is threatening the supply chain of iPhones.
Ooh.
Right? We're not going to be able to get our iPhones here very shortly.
Wow. Those celebrities are going to write a strongly worded letter.
Yes. That is Pearl Harbor 2023. That is worse than 9/11, J6, and Pearl Harbor all put together. The supply chain of iPhones is at stake as we speak. If you Google News Taiwan, that is all you read about is China is investigating this Taiwanese iPhone guy, and it's threatening iPhones as we know it. Let me see if I can find that one. Foxconn, which is a Taiwan iPhone maker, China is probing them right now, and it's exposing the supply chain dilemma. Of all the things that's going to drag an American's perception into being war focused, do you think it's Israelis getting kind of murked by the Palestinians? Do you think it's Russia attacking Ukraine, or do you think it's we're just going to withhold iPhones from you? Good luck getting the iPhone 15.
Bitches.
We got like 18 of them. We're just selling them for like $4 over here.
We use them for paperweights.
Yes. So this says China's probe of Taiwan iPhone maker exposes supply chain dilemma. In Hong Kong, says Taiwan-based iPhone maker Foxconn looks stuck between a rock and a hard place. Chinese media reported Sunday that authorities had carried out a multiple tax and land use investigations at subsidiaries of $43 billion Apple supplier Hanhe Precision Industries, also known as Foxconn. How do you have Foxconn out of Hanhe Precision Industries? Rattling investors and hurting the company's shares. Taiwanese and foreign firms are welcome to expand in China as the probe are just meant to safeguard market order, insisted Global Times, the state-run newspaper that broke the news. But onlookers across Taiwan Strait and beyond may feel differently. Taiwanese group Foxconn is China's largest private sector employer with nearly 800,000 staff. Thanks to its contribution to the Chinese economy, which includes creating jobs for tiny little children, the manufacturer has for years been enjoying tax breaks and favorable levies on land usage. Misuse of such favors is not completely out of the question. If found guilty, Foxconn could suffer the fate of Taiwan's biggest petrochemical group, Far Eastern Group. Wow, what an original name.
Wow, that's horrible.
Which was fined about $65 million after a similar investigation, which also led to its chairman proclaiming his opposition towards Taiwan's independence in a local newspaper article. The probe could be totally legit, yet coming less than 100 days ahead of Taiwan's presidential election in January, it's difficult to see surprise tax raids on Foxconn as having no geopolitical implications. Founder Terry Gu, who stepped down as company chair in 2019, is campaigning to run as independent candidate on the self-ruling island, which China claims as its own territory. His candidacy may divide the opposition camp, thus favoring the independence-leaning Democratic Progressive Party, which Beijing loathes. So again, this is like the top news in Taiwan right now.
Yeah.
Not the fact that there's been like a build-up to massive world war over this tiny little island and its independence and the fight for democracy. It's like if you look up Taiwan news, 2 out of the 3 pages Google will allow you to see is about Foxconn, not like the supply chain of iPhones being in peril right now.
Yeah.
And again, it's sad to me, but I feel like this is what Americans will see as an act of war.
Absolutely they will. Yes.
Like they'll be like, they cut off our iPhones, man. They cut off our iPhones.
The bastards.
And you know what would get the Gen Zers, or what's the most recent generation? I don't know.
I don't know.
The younger generation to be pro-war in a heartbeat against China. China would be smart to do this. Be like, we're no longer having TikTok in the United States. We're not allowing it. Click, we're flipping it off. Man, those Gen Zers would shit bricks.
Oh, fuck yeah.
They would be done. They'd be like, all right, let's go to war now. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll go to war.
Sign me up.
Bring back the draft.
Yep.
We need our fucking TikTok back.
This is our 9/11.
Derek says, aren't they trying to move Foxconn to India or Vietnam or something? Probably
to India.
I don't know. Anyway, I feel like they're hiding something about Taiwan more than just the iPhones.
I agree.
But I feel like the iPhones would tug at the young people's hearts, and they'd be like, let's go fight China now.
Yeah.
And like, let's just fight the whole world for our iPhones. It's sad, but it's true.
It is true. It is true.
Like Ukraine didn't suck enough. It almost did. Like everybody was like, oh, pro-Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden stuff starts coming out and people start realizing it's kind of dumb, and a lot of money was getting sent, and then more money was sent, and then they're like, hey, what are you spending that money on? It's like, don't ask questions, man. It's Ukraine. Do you want Ukraine to be overrun? It's the Russians.
Yeah, it's the Russians. You need to know more than that.
Dude, this isn't 1980s anymore. You can't.
We don't have Ivan Drago over there.
And so then like, what about Israel? We can pull a lot of people into war with the perpetual victims of Israel. Well, then even like Jewish people over here lost their Jew card because they're like, I don't want to do this war thing. Like that they're being stupid over there. Yeah. It's like, well, I mean, we got more. We got like probably 60, 70, especially millennials and older. It's like, oh, Israel, we got to defend Israel's right to exist.
Right.
But then you got the Gen Zers down there. It's like, who the fuck's Israel? What's the Holocaust? Who cares?
Yeah, right. That was before I was born.
I didn't see a TikTok video on that.
Yeah.
Well, then they're like, well, China is cutting off your iPhones and possibly TikTok. And then we got them all. Yeah. We got all the generations lined up. We got the boomers that knew the Soviet Union. They're like, fuck Russia. We've got the millennials and up that learned about the Holocaust and were groomed to be like, well, we got to support Israel because of the Holocaust.
And then
Gen
Xers are just like, we don't care.
Yeah,
I got more important things to worry about. Come on.
Who?
Yeah.
I don't know what generation you're talking about. Forgot about them.
As many do.
Derek, that was the joke. Derek says, oh my God, iPhone users would go to war with an entire country before switching to Android.
It's true.
It is so freaking true. It's like, guys, iPhones we can't get them anymore. You're going to have to switch over to Android. It's like, screw this.
Yeah.
I am now pro-gun. I'm now pro-war. I'm pro-genocide. I don't freaking care. Kill all the Chinese babies. Yeah. I don't care. Give me my freaking iPhone.
They take from their black nail polish and they put like stripes across their face. For
Yes.
camo.
Yes. Freedom. Democracy.
Apple!
Democracy is in peril. So, all this disaster that we just discussed in the last 2 hours and some odd minutes. How close now do you think we are? You still say 20%?
No, I'm gonna lean more towards like 55% now.
50. Wow, that
Yeah.
jumped significantly.
Yeah.
Was it the iPhones?
Yeah, it was.
It was definitely the iPhone.
That's my line in the sand.
You're like, we're on the brink of World War III right now. It's like, Ukraine.
I think the move to try to get Ukraine into the European Union is going to be.
And then that friggin' initiative thing.
Well,
about.
I mean, because I really feel like that's like the focus of trying to capture that area and trying to stabilize. But then, I mean, because they got Saudi Arabia in there, you got the United Arab Emirates, and then I feel like they're using Israel to try to, kind of get a hold of that area.
Israel's brokering it all.
Well, yeah, but then you look at all the conflicts going on in Africa, right?
Derek says they can take out our TikTok, but they'll never take our iPhones. Yes,
there's a lot of conflicts going on in Africa right now, so I feel like they're trying to destabilize that area against China.
Oh yeah.
So it's a huge I feel like it's a huge.
Well, we had said that about Afghanistan when we pulled out of Afghanistan. We knew the Belt Road Initiative was coming through. Weren't going to stop it, so let's just screw up it. We already screwed it up bad enough. Well, let's make it more unstable so China has that much.
Yeah.
That
we had
the
space race, in the 60s that got us nowhere. But
literally nowhere.
Yeah, but now I feel like there's some kind of huge competition right now to try to take over that area for trade. Right. And I think it could push us into World War III.
It will push us into World War III unless both sides come together and form.
That's not going to happen.
One giant, like when the Eastern Railroad combined with the Western Railroad. What if the Belt Road Initiative combines with the Biden Road Initiative and they join forces? It's never going to happen.
One giant road initiative.
Yes. So, last question. This is kind of off topic. Does this end Biden?
No.
You don't think so? Like the left is so against this, except Hollywood left.
Right.
But the normie left
Yeah.
is so against Israel's attack on, or retribution, I guess, against Gaza right now.
Yeah.
Even Obama came out and said, no, you're doing this wrong. We need to cease fire now. Obama, like the puppet master.
Right.
Like Biden is saying things that Obama's not saying. Like he's off the Obama script.
Yeah.
And if Obama's against him, I feel like
Obama could try to end him. Yeah.
This could be
like, Joe's way off the roads.
This could be his like, let's throw him into this war. If we succeed, we make a lot of money. If we don't succeed, it's all on Biden, and then we don't have to run him again.
Yeah.
Or why don't we just send him to Israel too? We tried sending him into Ukraine, and that didn't. Nothing happened there.
But Biden is he's gonna pick up, the conservatives.
Oh yeah.
He may lose some of the lefties, but he's gonna pick up righties.
But how do you what do you run on then?
I don't know. I mean, how lucrative is bomb making?
I don't know. Do you think Trump loses his fan base because Trump's like going against this whole? Because he could more. Yeah. He's always been like peace in the Middle East, even though he's like, I'm making Jerusalem Israel now, even though you guys say it's yours. I'm from America and I'm Donald Trump and I say that's Israel now, now. But he's all about peace in the Middle East somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like he's going to lose a lot of the.
I think so too.
But he can't be anti-Israel. Look at his freaking son-in-law.
Right. Yeah.
Look at all the people he pumps shoulders with.
I was going to say, if anybody's on the board of a company in Israel, it's Jared Kushner.
Many of the boards in Israel, I'm sure. It's his birthright.
Right.
He hasn't lost a Jew card yet. I don't know.
Yeah,
Some guy said we're 50%. His name is Ray Dallo. Says we are now 50% at a 50% chance of World War due to this Israel conflict. And he said a year ago it was 35%. So we jumped from 35 to 50%. Even during the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we were just at 35%.
Yeah.
But this has jumped us up to 50%. So that's where we're sitting.
Well, and again, support for Ukraine was waning. I mean, the Republicans were trying to find a way out of there. You know, they didn't want to keep funding it. And this whole Israel thing comes up, and now Joe's packaging it all together because, you know, war comes better in pairs.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
threes, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, I feel if World War III kicks off, China's going to end up owning Russia, like all of Russia. It's just going to be Russia, China. It's going to be like Russia's not going to have the money to go into a world war.
Yeah.
China's going to bankroll them, and then they're going to come back. They're going to call back their chits, which is all of Russia.
Right.
Which the United States and we were saying, was it Poland that was doing that in Ukraine? It's just like pretty much giving people money for their land and just kind of like quietly just like acquiring Ukrainian land while Russia's like everybody's focused on Russia and Poland's like, oh, we're just going to buy it.
Yeah.
Screw the war. We're just going to buy it from these people that we're like, yeah, come over here. We got a lot of nice stuff for you. You can live in a nice apartment, and you just got to give us your land.
Right. Yeah. And maybe, you know, fight for us if we ask you to.
None of the powers that be that would pull us into world war, including the United States, give two shits about the people that are involved. They just they're looking at the end game. It's like, well, if we do go to World War III, what do we get out of it at the end? It's kind of like what happened when they split everything up after World War II. And the United States, like, we're going to go over there. We're going to make sure we come out on top of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to make sure we get us a good deal, guys.
Yeah. And that's what I feel. Everybody that going into this, like, well, first we're going to bankroll off a war, especially like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all of those contract, Raytheon, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But then after, it's just like, now what do we get for this? Like, the initiative, be it the trade initiative or whatever, or trading rights or mineral freaking mining rights or whatever, oil deals or whatever.
I'd be curious to see what the Council on Foreign Affairs is saying about all this stuff, because they usually have a good inside track of how, you know, legislation is going to go.
That's because they pretty much.
Well, I know they pay for it.
They write our foreign policy.
Yeah. They're like, Joe, there's some good mineral deposits in Ukraine. We're gonna need those.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I got for this.
Yeah.
World War III is probably on its way.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but if it is, it's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about it as long as we
sleeper
can.
cells? You think sleeper cells?
I don't think sleeper cells exist.
Yeah.
I don't think they existed when ISIS was a thing. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember during the whole ISIS thing. Like, I was really, like, actually paranoid about, like, ISIS sleeper cells, like, rising up and here in the United States. And, like, I mean, that was, what, like 2014, somewhere in there? It was right when I got out of the military. So I was still brainwashed in that aspect. Never saw an ISIS sleeper cell. No matter how many times they warned us that this is going to happen, ISIS is just going to pop up and they're just going to, like, raid your homes and shit. And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like sleeper cells is just because, I mean, they talked about sleeper cells for the white supremacists. How many white supremacist sleeper cells have popped up since J6 happened?
Right.
Not too many.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that's all
fear porn.
Fear porn is just like, well, if we don't fight Hamas over there, they're going to pop up over here.
Right.
Well, like, who was it that the Israeli guy that was just like, it's not just a war against us. If we don't fight them, they're going to be at your doorstep.
Right.
I mean, he literally said, they're going to just pop up in your neighborhood someday. And you're going to wish that you had backed us in this fight against Hamas.
If World War III breaks out, do we see conflict on American soil?
I think some shit might get fired our direction.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I feel like China, if anybody, China would just like go through Alaska, like follow their balloon routes that they mapped out and come down through Canada and swarms of Chinese people. It's like they're not all going to freeze to death. There's so many of them. At least some will make it.
That's big if.
Yeah. So I think if anybody sends, it would be China. Russia might shoot some shit our way.
Yeah.
Do you think nuclear war happens if World War III breaks out?
I don't.
I mean, that would blow up all their good.
I was gonna
road
say,
land.
yeah, it's like you got all the. I mean, nobody wants to destroy natural resources.
It's true. I mean, they might shoot shit at desolate places just to say somebody shot something.
And I'm willing to give up Oregon, Washington, California.
I'm New York City,
Yeah,
just
right.
the city.
Chicago.
Can we just get rid of the
Yeah.
city? Do you think there'll be nuclear false flags? Like, hey, let's just cut
That
the
I can
power,
see.
cut
Yeah.
the power off, and be like, oh, there's a nuclear blast over
Yeah.
there. You didn't see that, or the EMP pulse, or something. There'll be a lot of false flags.
There will.
Anthrax scares, that type of thing. But it's going to be like COVID scares or
Right.
something crazy. Obviously, China's going to bring their COVID over and
Oh
fight
yeah.
us with that.
Oh yeah. They're gonna come over coughing.
Yeah, exactly. I have nothing else for this.
Yeah.
What do y'all think? Are we on the brink of World War III? What's your date?
Yeah.
What was your date?
Well, I might move mine up. I was thinking 2026, but shit, man, I might go like
November 9th, since that's the day after.
I would go. I think Derek said August 2024. That's a good date. I can't take his. I'll go October. I'll say 1 year from now.
1 year from now, you think it'll take that long for us to build up to war?
I do.
I don't know.
We move slow.
That's true. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it because right now it doesn't look like everybody's just kind of on edge.
Yeah.
But we get on edge and nobody pulls the trigger.
Right.
Got to keep an eye on it. It could go as early as December, I think.
That's pretty quick.
It could.
Yeah.
If the trigger happy people pull the trigger,
Yeah.
it could.
I think a lot of it.
I'd say probably next spring.
Yeah.
Would be a good time.
I could say
because October. I
yeah.
mean, you're getting back into winter months.
That's true.
Again.
Nobody wants to go through Alaska in the winter.
I'm gonna say April of 2024.
Okay.
Russia. Derek says Russia launches a nuke at Israel, but it hits Gaza. They claim that was their target the whole time. That would do it.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. This whole thing is stupid.
It is. I mean, think about how easy it would be to de-escalate Ukraine, right?
Right. Just be like, hey,
okay, guys, we're gonna back off.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean an offense.
Yeah. Just be like, you know what? This is a family matter. We're just gonna see our way out.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to somebody's house and the couple starts like bitch
Awkward
fighting,
dinner
like that weird
conversation,
and then they start yelling at each
no,
other.
Susan.
And so you're like, I'm just gonna. No, you sit down. I'm just gonna go.
Yeah. Right.
That's how this should be.
Yeah.
Like this is a family affair. Leave it in the family.
Exactly.
Now, if genocide starts actually happening, that's
different.
a different story.
That's different.
Even then,
But the whole reason why he even started up is because we started moving in on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Israel and Palestine.
That's different. That's long.
We started that. Like we helped start that family affair.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah. We it's like we found this hot chick to send into the family to like seduce the husband.
Yeah.
And then they got in this like 3-way bitch fight. And we're like, I don't know why they're fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the Israel-Palestine thing. Yes, that started, that predates long before the U.S. was ever even a thought.
Yeah.
Predates even Roman freaking democracy times.
Yeah.
But still, the West kind of screwed that up too. It's just like, you know what? You're right. You should be there, not them.
Yeah.
And so you guys go there.
Yeah. God did promise that to you.
Yes. So I don't know. I still don't think we should be backing them in genocide by any stretch.
No.
I don't think we should back anybody's genocide, no matter how much their right to exist is.
I don't think we'd be giving anybody money.
No money.
Yeah.
Just I'll keep my own money.
Yeah.
You can keep yours. If you don't have the money to finance your own war, don't start shit.
Exactly.
That's what I got to say to that.
I agree.
That's all. That's my wisdom for tonight's show. We got to get out of here. Make sure you check us out all over social media. Make sure you post your date for the poll. Maybe there'll be prizes involved. We'll have to come up with a prize. We'll make a t-shirt.
Yeah. I predicted World War III, and all I got with this shitty t-shirt.
We will send you a t-shirt that says I predicted World War III with the date that you predicted.
Yes.
If you win. And it's got, should we say the exact date or just a month? Because what if a lot of people guess the same month?
I guess if they guess the same month, maybe we'll have to narrow it down.
Or maybe we'll just send out multiple t-shirts.
Yeah, there you go.
We will send you a t-shirt that says I predicted World War III and then the month and year that you predicted. But it's got to be like you got to comment. You got to leave.
We got to see.
There's got to be some physical proof.
That's what I thought.
Yes, exactly. So get in on the action. Stakes are high.
Yes.
Because that might be the last good thing you receive when this whole shit show kicks off. We got to get out of here. You can find us all over social medias at our handle at Break the Bell Pod. You can right now still access our website at breakthebellpod.com, I think. Still haven't touched that. Wedding season's over, so I have more time to put into stuff like that. So make sure you show up next week, because I'm pretty sure we will be here next Monday night at what time do we do Mondays? 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you are listening in podcast land in the future, if I posted this to the podcast platforms, make sure you come hang out for a live stream because they're fun. They're fun. We had a good amount of participation tonight.
Yeah,
so
it was enjoyable.
People want to participate in World War III. So
and we can't do Tuesday night because it's Halloween.
That's true too.
So.
Happy almost Halloween. We will catch you next week. Have a great rest of your week. Don't start a war without us.
No.
We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.